It's time to rise and shine with us, Africa and world. Good morning. And we are together for the next 3 hours, the team of Asanda Peda and Peter Ndoro. Stay with us as we'll let you know what's coming up in the show in just a bit. Let's start you off with our news at 6 o'clock Central African time. Here's Onele Nzinzi.
SABC News. The African perspective.
Thank you, Asanda, and a very good morning to our listeners. Ghana says it intends to propose a United Nations resolution recognizing transatlantic slavery as the gravest crime in the history of humankind and calling for reparations. The West African nation plans to table the proposal at the UN General Assembly as early as this month. The plan marks a new step in Africa's efforts to seek accountability for historical injustices for former colonial powers. It also says it does expect broad support despite resistance in Europe. The UN says it's alarmed by a surge in drone and airstrikes in the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo. The Secretary General spokesperson Stephanie Dujarric has warned the escalation is endangering civilians and aid workers. The BBC's Richard Kago.
The spokesman's warning comes after a UN staff member and 2 others were killed when a combat drone struck a building in the eastern city of Goma. A conflict monitoring report says February recorded the highest number of aerial attacks in the wider region, including an army strike that killed the rebels' military spokesman near Rubaya, a key mining hub producing nearly 15% of the world's coltan.
South Africa's National Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Andy Mothibi, says the organisation remains committed to prioritising cases related to the state capture and Madlanga commissions, as well as the SIU referral cases. Mothibi says they are strengthening cooperation with their strategic partners and the public in efforts to combat and prevent crime across the country. He says of the 24 state capture cases under investigation, 12 have been enrolled for prosecution. Mothibi briefed the media in Pretoria on the NPA strategic priorities, including the implementation of its Quick Wins Action Plan and other key initiatives aimed at strengthening prosecutorial capacity.
On the Madlanga Commission, the President issued a statement where he referred a number of officials for investigation. Those are receiving attention. And as I said, we are cooperating with the SAPS. We've given them the task team. We've provided 2 prosecutors from General Prosecution. They are senior prosecutors. So that's Madlanga Commission. The number of officials that have been mentioned, I think almost about 8 or so, are receiving attention.
Between 600,000 and 1 million Iranian households are now temporarily displaced inside Iran as a result of the ongoing conflict. United Nations High Commission for Refugees says most of them are reportedly fleeing from Tehran and other major urban areas towards the north of the country and rural areas to seek safety. This figure is likely to continue rising as hostilities persist, marking a worrying escalation in humanitarian needs. The UN agency further says it also affected our refugees' families hosted in the country, mostly Afghans who are particularly vulnerable given their already precarious situation and limited support network. It says families are leaving affected areas amid rising insecurity and limited access to essential services. The UNHCR has emphasized the urgent need to protect civilians, maintain humanitarian access, and ensuring borders remain open to those seeking safety in line with their international obligation. And lastly, at least 64 people have been killed in floods and landslides triggered by heavy rains in the Gama zone in southern Ethiopia. Earlier in the week, officials had put the death toll at more than 30. Dozens are still missing. The authorities reported that most people had died in highland areas where saturated slopes gave way after days of intense rain. They urged residents in vulnerable areas to take precautions. Torrential rains have unleashed widespread flooding across East Africa in recent days. Dozens have also died in neighboring Kenya. Forecasters say storms are becoming more intense in the region, partly due to climate change. Now, for any news stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us at +27 11 714 4459. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Tsinsi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
And coming up in your sports news this hour, the CAF Champions League quarterfinals commence today, and Mondo Duplantis breaks the pole vault record for a 15th time. Details coming up at 6:30.
From Africa's broadcast capital to the furthest corners of the globe, this is Rise and Shine, every weekday mornings on Channel Africa.
6 o'clock. Well, it's 5 minutes past 6 Central African time. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on Channel Africa Combo. Not Channel Africa. It's Friday. That's what it is.
Yes, and we're happy about that.
I've lost my mind completely. A very good morning to you. It's Channel Africa's Rise and Shine. Yes, the premier breakfast show for news and current affairs across the continent. Monday to Friday between 6 and 9 Central African time. And we invite you to stay connected to Africa and the world with Channel Africa, the international voice of the South African Broadcasting Corporation. And you can listen and watch at any time, anywhere at channelafrica.co.za. And also you can catch us on your mobile app. Yeah, we're on SABC Plus, or you can listen via the DSTV or OpenView audio bouquets. And you can also catch us on social media. At Channel Africa 1 is our Facebook handle, and Channel Africa 1, Channel Africa on Facebook, and Channel Africa 1 and all the other social media platforms. Just type in Channel Africa and you pretty much will find us. And my name is Peter Ndoro. A very good morning, Asanda Beda.
Good morning.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday,
That's
Mr.
fantastic,
Peter
isn't
Ndoro.
it? That's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm
I
sure
love
you've
it.
got plans for the weekend.
Yes, to relax.
Yeah.
You know, you get to a certain age in life where relaxing is gold.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think the weather is not that great in
Yeah,
Johannesburg. I'm
yes.
going to leave it behind. I'm going to KZN.
Look at you.
So I'm going to be in warm weather.
Miss KZN.
Right. Well, Channel Africa is first with the African story globally. And one of those stories we'll be first with in this hour is that a year ago, the UK South Africa Tech Hub got some Township Digital Market Access Program launched. And this program is a startup campus and entrepreneurship hub. It was designed to help township businesses access e-commerce platforms and to expand online. So we check in with how far that's gone. And it was about 150 small and medium-sized enterprises who were part of that. So we check in with how that group has done and what this program has achieved.
Yep, and the usual suspects. So we're going to have the Africa Roundup in a short while. But one of the things that we're loving to focus on at the moment is the Africa Matters Summit. And we'll have more on that. We'll be talking to one of the panelists a little bit later on. Climate change, sharply in focus, given that as a continent we suffer the most and yet we contribute the least. How do we fix that? We'll be exploring that a little bit later on.
Got something to say? Are you passionate about issues that matter? Do you have a voice that deserves to be heard? Well, we've got the perfect platform for you. Call in or drop us a WhatsApp on +27 63 406 9126, and we will call you back so you could have your say and be part of the conversation.
30 years of age. I just turned 30 on the 15th of November. So yeah, that's who I am, you know.
It's not just talk, it's your chance to air your views. Share your opinion. Engage with the community that values your perspective. Follow us on our social media. Visit our website at www.channelafrica.co.za and get ready to share your views on Channel Africa, the African Perspective. Wake up, Africa. Peter Ndoro and Asanda Beda are here to help you rise and shine. Weekdays, 6 till 9 a.m. Central African Time. Only on Channel Africa.
It's time now for our Africa Roundup. This is the segment of Rise and Shine where we bring you up to speed with some news in and around our continent, a list of news compiled by our team of researchers, our reporters, as well as editors. This Africa Roundup serves as a way to throw forward into the new day. So what is one to expect to develop in the space of news on this Friday? It will take us there. And we start today's Africa Roundup with the drone strikes that have hit the city of Goma in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. These have killed at least 3 people, including a French aid worker. The armed group AFC or M23 has accused the Congolese army of carrying out the attack, saying on X, that social media platform, that drones targeted a densely populated area of the lakeside city. Caroline Malone reports.
It's the first drone attack in the city since AFC M23 rebels seized it last year. Akela Bumba says he lives next door to the house that was hit.
It was 4 a.m. that we heard explosions. I don't know where the first one fell, maybe in the lake. But it's the second one that fell here. It was very powerful. It lifted the roof off our artistic space.
A senior AFC M23 official told Reuters the house struck by one of the drones had been rented by UNICEF employees and is close to a residence used by former Congolese President Joseph Kabila. The official added a second drone had targeted the residence of AFC M23 political coordinator Corneille Nangaa, but fell into Lake Kivu. A senior official for UN Children's Agency UNICEF told Reuters its employee, a French national, was killed. The UN peacekeeping mission in Congo warned that attacks on UN personnel may amount to war crimes.
Lawmakers in Senegal have approved a new law doubling the maximum prison sentence for same-sex sexual acts and making it a crime to promote homosexuality. Blanche Ancla reports.
The move fulfills a campaign promise of the government that came to power in 2024, led by President Bassirou Diomaye Faye and Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko. Senegal already had a law, last updated in 1966, that punished what it called, quote, acts against nature, with up to 5 years in prison and fines of over $2,000. The new version says such acts can be punished with imprisonment of up to 10 years and fines of over $17,000. Judges are also barred from granting suspended sentences or reducing penalties below the minimum. The bill defines, quote, acts against nature to include homosexuality, bisexuality, what it calls, quote, transsexuality, as well as zoophilia and necrophilia. Anyone found guilty of promoting or financing such acts also faces prison time.
Armoured vehicles and heavily armed soldiers have begun patrolling the streets of Westbury as South Africa sends troops into the gang-plagued Johannesburg neighbourhood in a renewed effort to curb violent crime. Here's David Doyle with more.
I hope there's going to be a difference. I hope they'll make a difference.
Recent incidents in Westbury have resulted in fatalities and injuries.
The drugs will stop a bit, the shooting will stop.
That's prompted calls from residents for stronger state intervention.
Standing with their big guns for no reason.
Though some were sceptical.
How long are they going to be trying to come and trying to protect our communities? Because the moment they leave, it's back to normal.
Last month, President Cyril Ramaphosa announced that the army would support police in crime hotspots across the country. That's as part of a broader crackdown on organised crime that Ramaphosa described as a direct threat to South Africa's democracy and economic stability.
A Chinese man has been arrested at Nairobi's main airport after authorities found more than 2,200 live garden ants in his luggage amid a rise in cases of insect smuggling in Kenya. Zachary Hulman reports.
Court filings seen by Reuters say 27-year-old Zhang Kekun was arrested at Nairobi's main airport on Tuesday while he was trying to leave the country. Ant aficionados pay large sums to maintain colonies. The arrest comes amid a rise in cases of smuggling the insects. Last year, prosecutors accused suspects of being part of an ant gang who tried to move the live insects inside plastic syringes packed with cotton balls. 4 men were charged $7,700 each for trying to traffic thousands of ants. Experts said the case signaled a shift in biopiracy from trophies, like elephant ivory, to lesser-known species. Investigators said a search of Zhang's luggage recovered 2,238 ants, including 1,948 packed in test tubes and the rest in 3 rolls of soft tissue papers. Kenya's Wildlife Service said a similar consignment of ants had been seized in Bangkok on Tuesday that originated from Kenya, indicating the existence of a widespread and organized ant smuggling network.
So that's how we wrap up today's edition of the Africa Roundup. You can catch another one here on Rise and Shine on Monday next week. We bring this to you after the 6 a.m. news, bright and early, to catch you up in what's happening on the continent as well as the world.
Africa is changing, and the world is paying attention. This March, Channel Africa invites you to be part of a new conversation. Africa Matters, a platform where experts, policymakers, and thought leaders come together to unpack the big issues of our time: technology, politics, economics, climate change, and the future of our people. This is where ideas meet action, where change becomes opportunity, where Africa's voice takes its rightful place on the global stage. In March 2026, Channel Africa hosts Africa Climate Change Recovery Summit. Join the dialogue. Be part of the movement. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Wake up, Africa. Peter Ndoro and Asanda Peda are here to help you rise and shine. Weekdays, 6 till 9 a.m. Central African Time. Only on Channel Africa.
The Commission of Inquiry into allegations of misconduct, fraud and corruption in the South African Police Service continue to hear evidence from different witnesses. The Madlanga Commission this week grilled and the suspended head of organised crime, Major General Richard Shibiri. Shibiri, who admitted that he accepted a loan from murder-accused Vusimuzi Kat Matlala, was further probed on the matter. Sibahle Mota filed this report.
The 70,000 rands loaned to Major General Shibiri came under further scrutiny at the Madlanga Commission. Evidence leader, Advocate Lee Seagles Ncube, put it to Shibiri that the loan he received from Matlala was in actual fact money given to him for a Thanksgiving ceremony. The money loaned to Shibiri was deposited in his son's account 2 days before the ceremony. However, Major General Shibiri rejected Advocate Seagles Ncube's assertion, stating that the loan was for the repair of a vehicle.
But really, let me use the right word. Really, it doesn't make sense, because there is money which showed in my account of my son, money showing paying for parts and whatsoever, and you still insist. I don't know for what reason. Unless Matlala comes here, you said Matlala comes here, you asked him, he told you so. But I told you, I'm not going to take this. You can take it as a way or how you wish, but I'm not taking this as evidence.
The Madlanga Commission further put it to Shibiri that there was no need for him to accept the loan from Matlala to repair his son's vehicle. Evidence before the Madlanga Commission shows that Shibiri and his son had more than enough money to fix the vehicle themselves. Justice Mbuyiseli Madlanga elaborates.
So you chose the convenience in quotation marks, of borrowing money from a person that you knew at the time, and you admitted this yesterday when my colleagues engaged you, a person that you knew at the time to be alleged to be seriously implicated in criminality. So you chose the convenience of borrowing instead of using in excess of 50,000 rand that you had or that was available to you.
It has also emerged that General Shibiri splurged on luxury items from Gucci and Louis Vuitton between September and December 2024. This was after the loan was attained from Matlala. Commissioner Khumalo also stated to General Shibiri that he had more than enough money to repair his son's vehicle.
And it shows that in the same month that you made the purchase at Gucci Sandton, you made another purchase at Louis Vuitton Sandton. But even after those two purchases, even before your salary reflects in your bank account, you are still left with 47,900 rand.
Yeah.
which just shows that, there was no need to sell cattle.
Major General Shibiri returns to the stand on Friday for further cross-examination. I am Sibahle Mota in Pretoria.
So those were the latest developments from the South Africa's Madlanga Commission, which is investigating allegations of corruption and criminal influence inside the country's police service. Now, the inquiry has already produced dramatic testimony, including claims of financial links between senior officers and criminal suspects, as well as allegations involving political figures and police leadership. Well, to help us unpack the significance of these revelations, we're now joined by Andy Mashaila, who's a South African security strategist and former Interpol ambassador. Always good to talk to you. Thanks so much indeed for joining us.
My brother, it's a blessing to talk to you, and good morning to the production team and all at home.
So, from what we've heard so far at the Madlanga Commission, how serious are you finding the allegations emerging about corruption, criminal infiltration within the South African police leadership?
To use two words, very brutal and bruising, weak, from the testimony that came through, showing the deep rot that we can safely assume to be a cancerous lesion. That is the few number of police officers who are corrupt to the core and are being controlled by gangsters or criminals out there.
So one of the most striking revelations involves the suspended organized crime chief, Major General Richard Shibiri, admitting that he received a loan, inverted commas, from murder-accused businessman Vusimuzi Kat Matlala. And I just wonder, from a law enforcement ethics perspective, how damaging is that admission, not just for him, but as a reflection of the police service in general?
There was no choice that he could not admit, Peter, because the line of questioning from the tiger being Ntate Madlanga, you and I saw that the line of questioning exposed the real intention behind the loan, even though that we cannot put the finger exactly and say this loan came as a result of General Shibiri having done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for Kat Matlala. We know that from an ethics point of view, he is not supposed to go and borrow money from people with dubious backgrounds. And I am part and parcel of the advisory council to the Premier of Gauteng on ethics as well as anti-corruption. I am sure I would advise the Premier not to go and borrow money to help with the payments of, for an example, the wardens, because to an individual like Mr. Matlala, because that would be unethical. And you know as a police officer that you can't do that, because tomorrow this gentleman is going to turn around and say, you can't arrest me. General Shibiri is my person, is my inside man, which is what we have learned that he has said that at one stage when he was arrested. And you getting angry as Major General Shibiri is not helpful to us and the ethics and the code of conduct that we expect you to uphold.
The National Prosecuting Authority says that it's already acting on crimes revealed through the Commission. I guess South Africans are watching closely, given previous inquiries and commissions in the past. Will we see, do you think, real prosecutions taking place and people being brought to account after this?
definitely we will see some. We will see those changes that we are expecting. We will see the action that we are expecting. We will also see the consequences management from a serious and intensely pursuit of the criminal justice cluster, ensuring that those who have been identified are prosecuted and lastly are incarcerated. Why am I thinking the way I do, Peter? It's because my namesake, Advocate Ndimu Tibi, comes from the unit that was investigating, amongst others, the Tembisa shenanigans. And I am certain that he wants to prove to the world and to South Africans that the findings that were in the report that I handed over to the president as the former head of the Special Investigations Unit are true. And this is a one-time opportunity, Peter, where you were the head of the SIU, you investigated, and now you are the head of the prosecutorial authority, where you will now be able to direct your prosecutors and show them exactly what to look for because of that wealth of experience from an investigations point of view. And I put my head on the block and by supporting Ndimu Tibi in his quest for prosecuting those who are involved so that we are able to get rid of the rot, either in NPA itself, in the justice system, particularly in law enforcement agencies. We want the people of this country to be safe and to actually be safe as it is prescribed in the NDP 2030, Chapter 12 of the National Development Plan. We have said by 2030 our people must be safe and they should feel safe. But we have seen, you and I, Peter, that going through that time period when it was set up, that NDP was set up, until up to General Ntantam Kwana's painful Sunday, the 6th of July 2025, we were thinking, this is not going to happen. But with the speed with which Justice Mazanga is pushing the commission, we are hopeful that by 2030, some of the crooks or the suspects will land behind bars and will wear orange overalls. I'm very confident.
So, I mean, this whole thing begs the question for me, much like the Gupta story, there are very many others like the Guptas, perhaps, that have had this influence over the state. I wonder, because we know what we know, and that may be just a narrow band in terms of the people, criminals out there that have been infiltrating the police. And then I'm starting to think, what about international drug lords? Have they infiltrated local police as well? And is that why there's so many drugs? It seems to me the police have got and the prosecuting authority have got a much bigger job than just what's come out of the Madlanga Commission.
Kira, you are right, my brother. Properly described. One, internationally, from my international experience as an ambassador or retired ambassador of Interpol, I am able to say with a serious conviction that the Italians, particularly 'Ndrangheta is the mastermind mafia, the master mafia worldwide, controlling Brazil, having had controlled and continuing to control the drug operations in Mexico, in the South Americas, in the Caribbean community. You and I have seen the drugs coming from the South Americas of the world, coming through KZN, landing at the port of entry there, and those drugs having been confiscated to the value of 200 million, and those drugs being taken to a storage facility of the Hawks in that part of the world. And you and I having seen that contraband worth 200 million being stolen from one of the offices of the Hawks, a very secure organization, and that those drugs getting lost there, meaning that there was a mole on the inside. And we have realized that that was the office of Major General Sinona. So that tells you, Peter, without any doubt, that the police, especially at the top level, work hand in glove with those individuals who are peddling drugs. So from an international drug distribution point of view, those organizations own some of our senior officers. You remember in 2022, the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime released a report titled The Powder Storm, the drugs coming from Mexico into
right. Unfortunately, Ambassador, we've run out of time, and it's something that we can talk about quite a lot, but I think you've really highlighted the big issues, particularly with the Madlanga Commission and the wider implications. So thanks very much indeed. Always good talking to you.
Wonderful talking to you and your production team. Thank you, Peter.
That's Andy Mashaile, who's a South African security strategist and former Interpol ambassador, talking to us about infiltration in the police and how it's being seen through the Madlanga Commission here in South Africa. It's time for your news headlines. Good morning to you, Onele Nsinzi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Peter. Zambia's Foreign Affairs Minister Malambo Haimbe has warned that ongoing conflict across the globe are having far-reaching economic consequences, disrupting supply chains and affecting livelihoods even in southern Africa. Eswatini has received 4 more third-country deportees from the United States. The 4 Somalis, Tanzanians and a Sudanese arrived late yesterday at Matsapa Maximum Security Correctional Center outside the capital. And Israel has told residents of southern Lebanon to leave immediately. It has extended the area of its mass evacuation order. Channel Africa News, I am Onele Mtsinzi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Let's get caught up in what's happening in the world of sports now. It is time for that update with Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thank you so much, Asanda. Very good morning from the sports desk. Well, the Olympic Stadium in the city of Rabat will host one of the most anticipated fixtures of the CAF Champions League finals on Friday night when Morocco's AS FAR Rabat take on defending champions Pyramids FC in the first leg of their last 8 clash. For Pyramids FC, the tie represents the beginning of their title defence as the Egyptian side now attempts to continue their rise among the continent's elite clubs. Meanwhile, FAR Rabat are chasing a return to continental prominence and hope to revive memories of the historic Champions League triumph back in 1985, of course, about 41 years ago. Now, the meeting is expected to deliver a fiercely contested encounter between the two sides with strong continental aspirations as well as ambition to progress deeper into the competition. In Friday's other matches in the last round of 8, the quarterfinals, we'll get to see 2016 champions Mamelodi Sundowns of South Africa hosting Stade Milan of Mali at Loftus Versfeld in the country's capital city, Pretoria. Both matches kick off, starting at 8 p.m. Central African time. On to some rugby news now. Springbok Sevens forward David Brits says the hard work done in the set piece is just as rewarding as scoring the spectacular tries that often follow. Now, Brits is hard at work preparing with the Blitzboks for the HSBC Sevens New York this weekend. Again, happy to do the donkey work instead of being the race horse. Ironically, as an outside back in 15s, Brits has been, scored a fair share of tries and also held the Carling Currie Cup aloft with the Cheetahs, but that is a long way away from his current destiny. The Blitzboks are glad to have David Brits in the ranks since making his debut in Perth back in 2024. The former junior Springbok player has helped his team to win 5 tournament titles and also has been on the podium in 4 of the last 8 events. Well, Sweden's Mando Duplantis broke his own pole world record for a 15th time on Thursday with a jump of 6.31 meters. The 2-time Olympic gold champion cleared the height at the IFU Arena in the Mondo Classic, an indoor pole vault event in Sweden named after him. After clearing 5.65, 5.90 as well as 6.08 meters, all on his first attempts, the 26-year-old was asked for the bar to be lifted to 23 centimeters to a world record height and then promptly soared over. It was the second time he had broken the world record in Sweden. He cleared 6.28 meters in Stockholm in June of last year, one of the 4 world record leaps in 2025. Duplantis has increased the world record by a minimum of 1 centimeter margin on all 15 occasions that he has broken it. Before Duplantis' run, the world record had been held by Ranud Lavani of France, who's jumped 6.16 meters, and that was back in 2014. Back home now, South African sprinter Bradley Nkwana may not always grab the headlines, but he has quietly become one of the most dependable members of the national 4x100 meter relay team. And the 21-year-old says being labelled underrated does not bother him as long as he continues to deliver for his country. However, Nkwana's consistency, composure as well as fighting spirit have made him a trusted figure in the relay squad. Speaking ahead of the upcoming World Athletics Relays in Botswana from the 2nd to the 3rd of May, Nkwana says recognition is secondary to performing when the team needs him the most.
Underrated or not, I still get the job done. So that's what I know I need to do. And like you said, one of the important guys in the team, I think all of us play a huge role in our different positions. And people may undermine or overlook what we do, but it's actually quite intense and difficult, and you need to be super focused. So no matter who says anything, I have a positive mindset. I know what I need to do. I know my goals and dreams and where I need to go in life. So that's what I'm saying. Underrated or not, I'll still get the job done.
Nkwana, who also claimed a silver medal at the National Under-20 Championships at Greenpoint Stadium in the Western Cape province just last year, has now set his sights on qualifying for the 2026 Commonwealth Games scheduled for the 23rd of July to the 2nd of August. To secure his place in the 100-meter event, he will need to clock the qualifying standard of 10.00 seconds. If he achieves that mark, he hopes then to represent South Africa in both the individual 100 as well as the 4x100 meter relay events.
That's the goal. The first goal I need is to qualify, and to see that once I get into that final, I'm going to aim for gold. I wasn't mentally ready for it last year, but I know I am right now. It's been going well. Preparations have been going well, even though we had a slight hiccup. But like I said, it's God's timing, not mine. So He knows what I need to be doing. I just need to trust Him, put faith in Him, and make sure that I do His work.
All right, so that concludes your sports news this hour. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, do send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11714 4459. I'm back with more sports news in the next hour. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Mosibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Musabudi, thanks very much indeed. As she says, you'll hear more sport in the next hour. Coming up shortly, though, is the business news. And just before that, I'm always going on about African innovation, African science, indigenous knowledge. And we know how to find solutions to some of our challenges. Listen to this story. A Nigerian teacher and inventor, Muhammad Ba Abba, created something called the pot-in-pot refrigerator. Now, that's a simple cooling system made from 2 clay pots and wet sand placed between them. As the water evaporates, the temperature inside the inner pots drops, allowing fruits and vegetables to stay fresh for much longer. This without the use of electricity. And this invention has helped farmers and traders in rural areas reduce food spoilage. Indigenous knowledge to be celebrated. Stay with us. The business news is next.
Stella Longwe. Pamalonje.
Ndiyetu apa tindikatswiri oimba wa dziko la Mozambique ameneyu amene ali Ricabana. Ndatiuzeni kuti maimba ashamba shanji komanso dzina lanu lenileni koleka ngati dzina limeneli ndilijatu atapa stage. Dzina lanu kwenikweni ndi ndani komanso maimba ashamba shanji?
Ineyo dzina langa lenileni ndine Ricardo Musa Rabana. Chamba chimene ndimaimba ine ndimanganji ndimakonda kwambiri ma tradition. Zimenezo ndi nyimbo zathu chifukwa kwathu kunoko tili ndi madansi osiyana-siyana a chimizi. Ndi ineyo poti ndi mnyamata wa chimizi ndi ndimakondanso nyimbo za chimizi.
Ndinu a chimizi? Ndi makondanso nyimbo za chimizi, mapangaso za chimizi. Zosangalatsa kuti mwanena bwera kuti ndinu a chimizi. Anthu amazibisa anthu amafuna kukhala ndithu achitauni. Koma chikhalidwe chilibe chitauni, alisa ndi chikhalidwe chake, alisa ndi zimene amakonda.
Malonje, pa nthawi ya 6 koloko kufikira 7 koloko madzulo. Lowiruka ndi Stella Longwe.
Okay, so that means it's time for us to find out what's happening in the world of business as we say good morning to Chanduko Lugege.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning. The Pretoria Specialized Commercial Crime Court in South Africa has sentenced former Steinhoff auditor Hein Odendaal to 4 years imprisonment or a $120,000 fine. Odendaal, who turned himself into the Hawks last year, entered into a plea agreement regarding his role in the multi-billion rand scandal. The court found he failed to report massive fraud involving fictitious income, which led to the release of false and misleading audited financial statements. Hawks national spokesperson Katleho Mohale.
Odendaal was also sentenced to an additional 2 years imprisonment, which is wholly suspended for a period of 5 years on the following condition: that the accused is not convicted of the contravention of Section 34(1) of the Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act committed within the period of suspension, and that the accused subject himself to a 1-year correctional supervision in terms of Section 2761H of the Criminal Procedure Act.
South Africa's manufacturing sector has started the year on a weaker footing, with production slipping 0.7% year-on-year in January. The decline was due to sharp contractions in the wood, paper, publishing and printing industry, as well as the basic iron, steel and machinery division. 7 divisions recorded stronger year-on-year growth, but this was not enough to lift the industry into positive territory. Meanwhile, mining activity in the country picked up pace in January, increasing by 4.6% year-on-year. The growth was mainly boosted by strong output in platinum group metals and key bulk minerals. The gains were partly offset by declines in iron ore, copper, nickel, coal and building materials. Principal survey statisticians at SA, Juan Pierre Terebranch, says on a month-on-month basis, seasonally adjusted mining production rebounded by 2.9% in January.
Platinum group metals, chromium ore and manganese ore drove most of the upward momentum. Together, the 3 minerals contributed 5.5 percentage points to overall growth. Gold and diamonds were also positive year-on-year. On the downside, the industry produced less copper, nickel, iron ore and coal compared with January 2025.
South Africa's power utility Eskom says it is planning to disconnect electricity in over 1,000 households due to illegal connections in the Claridge area of Pietermaritzburg in the KwaZulu-Natal province. Eskom, working with the police, are targeting specific zones like Edendale, where illegal connections and cable theft are rampant. The power utility says it has lost around $1.526 million in revenue over the past 7 years due to illegal connections in this area. An Eskom senior manager, Dadewabo Mbele, says Eskom has tried several times to disconnect illegal connections, but residents continue to reconnect.
On a daily basis, what we do is we protect our infrastructure. We protect our infrastructure against illegal use of electricity, against illegal connections. So that's why we're here. This one is a bit larger because we are in a community in the Huddingsdale Farm in Claridge, where you have over 1,000 household of a high SEM who can afford to pay for electricity. However, we are not getting the revenue from it because they are illegally connected.
Experts are warning that investment in mass surveillance technology in Africa could violate citizens' civil liberties. A new report shows that 11 African governments have spent a combined $2 billion on Chinese-built technology that tracks movement and has facial recognition. The BBC's Shakira Abdi has more.
The researchers say that although countries using surveillance technology argue that it will reduce crime, it could also have a chilling effect on freedom of speech. The report expresses concerns that facial recognition is being used to monitor activists and crack down on protests in countries across Africa, including Uganda and Kenya. Nigeria has spent the most on its surveillance infrastructure, investing more than $600 million on thousands of smart cameras last year. The authors of the study say these could pose a threat to anybody speaking out against the government in the future.
$1 in Nigeria is 1,000 naira 393, Botswana 13 pula 33, Kenya 128 shilling 447, Zambia 19 kwacha 44, BRICS countries $1 in Brazil, 5 real 18, Russia 79 rupees 29, India 91 rupee 28, China 61.87, South Africa 16 rand 64. $1 is trading at 74 pence to the British pound, 86 to the euro. Commodities: gold is at $5,110, platinum at $2,137 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil $100.92 a barrel. For any stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or you can call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Chandruko Ligege.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. New day, new stories. Start your morning right with Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
A message from Iran's newly appointed Supreme Leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, appeared to defy a resolution passed by the UN Security Council demanding Tehran immediately stop all attacks directed at Arab countries in the region. The resolution, which passed with 13 voters in favor and 2 abstentions from Russia and China, only targeted Iran's retaliatory strikes, but made no demands on the United States or Israel in relation to continuing military action targeting Iran. Khamenei, whose first public statement was read on Iranian state television, said all U.S. military bases in the Middle East should close immediately, that those bases would be attacked, and that the Strait of Hormuz should remain closed as a tool to pressure the enemy, a likely reference to the United States. Here's Sherwin Bryce-Peace with more.
Pressure on global markets continued as the war approached the 2-week mark, with oil prices now hovering above $90 a barrel, amid continued maritime disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz, despite a binding Security Council resolution calling on Iran to comply fully with its obligations under international law and reaffirming the exercise of navigational rights and freedoms by merchant and commercial vessels, while condemning any action by Iran aimed at closing or obstructing international navigation through the strait. But given the latest statement from Iran's Supreme Leader, that legally binding resolution is likely to be defied. Listen to Iran's envoy to the United Nations, Ambassador Amir Saeed Iravani.
This resolution is a manifest injustice against my country, the main victim of a clear act of aggression. It distorts the realities on the ground and deliberately ignores the root causes of the current crisis. Iran re-emphasized that its defense operation targeting United States military bases and facilities in the region are in no way against the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the regional countries. Also, the Israeli regime has succeeded in dragging the United States into a regional conflict.
With the shipping of oil through the Strait of Hormuz effectively stopped by Iran, the country warned that the oil price could climb to $200 a barrel, even as the US President Donald Trump provided a positive sentiment on how the war was going.
We're going to be in very good shape. You see what's happening. They are pretty much at the end of the line. Doesn't mean we're going to end it immediately, but they've got no Navy, they've got no Air Force, they've got no anti-air traffic, anything. They have no systems of control. We're just riding free range over that country. And now we're going to look very strongly at the Straits. The Straits are in great shape. We've knocked out all of their boats. They have some missiles, but not very many. I think we're in very good shape. The main thing is we have to win this thing, win it quickly, but win it. And there are many people, I'm just watching some of the news. Most people say it's already been won. It's just a question of when. When do we stop?
This as the International Energy Agency released 400 million barrels of oil from global strategic reserves in an effort to stabilize oil markets. Listen to the agency's executive director Fateh Birol.
Dünya enerji piyasaları Orta Doğu'daki gelişmelerden ötürü
Global energy markets are going through an extremely critical period due to developments in the Middle East. In particular, the closure of the Strait of Hormuz has caused serious problems in the global oil and natural gas markets. To help resolve these problems, the International Energy Agency, as I announced in a press conference, began releasing 400 million barrels of oil into the markets yesterday. This is an extremely important issue.
Senate Democrats in the U.S. are demanding public hearings on the war in Iran, raising questions about the goal, scope, cost, and endgame of U.S. involvement. Senator Richard Blumenthal among them.
The American people deserve to know much more than this administration has told them about the cost of the war, the danger to our sons and daughters in uniform, and the potential for further escalation and widening of this war. A war of choice made by this president, not chosen by the American people, with potentially huge consequences to American lives.
The New York Times was first to report that the war has cost the United States more than $11.3 billion in the first 6 days. That's almost 190 billion rand, citing sources familiar with a briefing by military officials to members of Congress. The figure is said to be a low-end estimate and does not include the build-up and positioning of military assets and personnel in the region ahead of the war. What is clear is that war is costly to civilians, to civilian infrastructure, in terms of escalating humanitarian needs, in addition to the cost of funding the weapons and munitions that bring the devastating impacts and consequences of war to bear. I'm Shervin Bryce-Pease in New York.
Still to come, we talk about the Township Digital Market Access Program here on Rise and Shine, and this an initiative run by the UK South Africa Tech Hub as a partnership.
New day, new stories. Start your morning right with Rise and Shine on Channel Africa. Africa is changing, and the world is paying attention. This March, Channel Africa invites you to be part of a new conversation. Africa Matters. A platform where experts, policymakers, and thought leaders come together to unpack the big issues of our time. Technology, politics, economics, climate change, and the future of our people. This is where ideas meet action, where change becomes opportunity, where Africa's voice takes its rightful place on the global stage. In March 2026, Channel Africa hosts Africa Climate Change Recovery Summit. Join the dialogue. Be part of the movement. Channel Africa, the African perspective. New day, new stories. Start your morning right with Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
A group of 150 small and medium-sized enterprises from South Africa's Gauteng province have completed the Township Digital Market Access Program, a year-long program initiative run by the UK South Africa Tech Hub, a startup campus and entrepreneurship hub designed to help township businesses access e-commerce platforms and expand online. To tell us more about the program, we're joined live by Vukani Mnyandu, who's spokesperson for the Wholesale and Retail SETA and Head of Communications, Marketing and Stakeholder Management. Vukani, thank you for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am, and good morning also to the viewers at home.
Thanks for making time to talk to us. So this started a year ago, this initiative. Why target the township economy specifically? Let's take a bit of a background look.
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, I'm sure you and the viewers at home would understand that, because of the high statistics around poverty, unemployment, in villages, in rural areas, but also in townships, which, seem to be quite closer to towns as well as urban areas. So the whole idea here as the Wholesale and Retail SETA is really to work with different partners, but one of those is really the SMMEs, to try and elevate the skills profiles so that the SMMEs in townships, those that are located to closer urban areas where the real economic activities are happening, are at least well equipped to graduate and grow their businesses so that those SMMEs in townships can be able then to employ more and more people and have their businesses growing. So basically our offering as the Wholesale and Retail SETA is around the development of skills, more especially around digital marketing when you talk about this particular program.
So 150 township-based businesses have graduated, a great milestone that is. What does it mean then for the growth of digital entrepreneurship in South Africa, this achievement?
It's actually, a great step for South Africa. And let me tell you why. Yes, we have started at a very low scale, meaning focusing here in Gauteng on townships that are here in Gauteng. But going forward, we'll be moving to other townships, more especially in the Western Cape. So the benefit for South Africa on this particular program called the Digital Marketing Access Program is that we have identified SMMEs that are already doing business. We're not talking about people who have not yet started. They are doing, different types of businesses. But what we've done is that we've consolidated all of them. We want them, now to be able to be in a position to use digital platforms in selling their products. Digital platforms such as the social media, digital platforms that are so inclusive of apps. Let me tell you, companies, for an example, such as Macro, Take a Lot, and many other apps that are those of other international companies, where they need to register, make use of those apps, in selling, their products. So what it does then is that it maximizes the platform or the opportunities really for them to improve their sales, as opposed to them operating there in a corner, in a township, hoping for people to come into a store. But if that is extended to a digital platform, it means that their products and services are now exposed to a potential clientele that is located throughout the country. And through the rest of the world. Can I share just briefly a story? We have an SMME who said to us during the graduation, who said to us, look, when I started, my turnover was not more than 6.3 thousand, but for the past 2 years, ever since I've plugged my products at these various digital platforms, I'm making a turnover of not less than 86,000. So meaning people are now buying online. She has clients that she has not seen before. They're interacting online. She is actually, shipping goods through different parts of the country, and those are the stories, honestly, that we want to hear. Gone are the days
Absolutely, we want to. Right.
Absolutely. And gone are the days whereby for you to sell something, you need to see a person per se. A large of commercial activities are now happening through e-commerce.
Gani, great chatting to you, and thank you for giving us those real tangible examples as well of how this is making a difference in the lives of township entrepreneurs. And it's great to see that there's access to market, which is a barrier for township economies that you've, through this program, tackled. Thank you again for your time. We're going to leave it there. We're completely out of time. Vukani Mnyandu is spokesperson for the Wholesale and Retail SETA, discussing the Township Digital Market Access Program and the graduation of 150 township-based businesses in South Africa.
You're listening to Channel Africa's Rise and Shine with Peter Ndoro and Asanda Beda. We begin the next hour, the second hour of the program. It's 7 o'clock Central African time. Here's Onelen Sinsi with the news.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Peter. South Africa's newly appointed National Director of Public Prosecutions, Andy Mothibi, has emphasized the need to strengthen the Protected Closure Act to ensure the safety of whistleblowers. This follows the recent killings of witnesses and whistleblowers linked to matters before the Madlanga Commission sitting in Pretoria. The Commission is investigating allegations of criminal infiltration and political interference in the criminal justice system. Advocate Mothibi says the Justice Department is working on legislative amendments to broaden the scope of the Act and extend protection beyond the traditional employer-employee relationship.
As it provides at the moment, its coverage is not wide enough to cover other whistleblowers that are outside of the employer-employee environment. The Protected Disclosures Act, if you read it now, it limits the protection to those who disclose wrongdoing, but in the employer-employee relations space. So the intent is to widen up. If I recall well, the Ministry of Justice might have taken out some of the proposals for comments. If they haven't done that, they'll be doing that soon for public comments.
The South African Parliament's ad hoc committee will today hear the evidence of 4 witnesses who are members of the public. The committee is investigating allegations of criminal infiltration, corruption and political interference in the justice system of the country. Abongwe Kobokane explains.
Today's 4 public submissions followed that of Kishne Chetty. Members of the committee have expressed mixed views about Chetty's evidence. They were concerned that it was about pending cases against him. Their main concern was the possibility that he might incriminate himself. DA MP Glenys Breitenbach walked out of the proceedings, saying she is deeply uncomfortable to participate. The committee has a deadline of the 31st of March this year.
Ghana says it intends to propose a United Nations resolution recognizing transatlantic slavery as a gravest crime in the history of humankind and calling for reparations. The West African nation plans to table the proposal at the UN General Assembly as early as this month. The plan marks a new step in Africa's effort to seek accountability for historical injustices by the former colonial powers. It also says it does not expect broad support despite resistance. It does rather expect broad support despite resistance in Europe. Eswatini has received 4 more third-country deportees from the United States. The 2 Somalis, a Tanzanian and a Sudanese, arrived late yesterday at Matsapa Maximum Security Correctional Center outside the capital, Mbabane. They joined 15 others sent to the Southern African Kingdom last year under U.S. deals with several African nations to accept undocumented migrants. The facility expects around 140 more deportees. Trump's administration has been sending deportees to Eswatini since last July in a deal that earned the small Southern African country $5.1 million. And lastly, Israel has told residents in southern Lebanon to leave immediately. It has extended the area of its mass evacuation order. The Israeli Defense Ministry has told the army to prepare for expanded operations inside Lebanon. This as Israel fights a militant group Hezbollah. Meanwhile, Lebanon has appealed to Israel's allies to intervene. The BBC's Wyatt Davis reports.
Israel's Defense Minister Israel Katz said that the Israeli military would seize strategic areas in Lebanon to stop fire on Israelis living along the border in the north of the country. The move is a new blow to Lebanese sovereignty and the 2024 US-brokered ceasefire deal that brought an end to a year of full-on fighting between Israel and the Lebanese armed group Hezbollah. Lebanese reports say that Lebanon's army is beginning to pull back from its positions in the south. Israel's military says it's continued with targeted airstrikes against Hezbollah in Lebanon and Iranian military sites.
Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Nsinsi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
And coming up in your sports news this hour, Stade Milan embrace underdog role before Mamelodi Sundowns CAF Champions League quarter-final test, while Mando Duplantis breaks Paul Vaud record for a 15th time. Details of these and other stories coming up at 7:30.
From Africa's broadcast capital to the furthest corners of the globe, this is Rise and Shine, every weekday mornings on Channel Africa.
Entering the second hour of Rise and Shine is the team of Asanda Peda and Peter Ndoro saying good morning and thank you for staying with us and stay connected to Africa and the world with Channel Africa, the international voice of the South African Broadcasting Corporation. You can connect with us, watch us live anywhere, anytime on channelafrica.co.za, also on the Channel Africa mobile app, the SABC Plus mobile app, as well as the DSTV and OpenView audio bouquets. Get in touch with us with your questions and comments on our programming. We welcome those on our social media platforms. On Facebook, our page is at Channel Africa, and then across the other social media platforms, we are at Channel Africa 1. Also live streaming on YouTube via that handle. Channel Africa is first with the African story globally. And what is the first story that you're going to be looking at?
All right, it's a bit of a sad story, actually. So we know that there is a conflict in the DRC, and it's been escalating in recent weeks. And what that has done is that we've seen hundreds of thousands of Burundians, people in the DRC fleeing into Burundi. And that, of course, is causing a humanitarian situation in Burundi, where the shelters and people being taken care of under strain, and it's the aid agencies are struggling to assist the many people that are fleeing into Burundi. We'll be unpacking that with somebody from the WHO.
Also of concern are the tensions that are in the Middle East, and they remain high as fighting between Israel and Iran, with the involvement of the United States, continues to escalate. And of course, this is raising fears further of a wider regional war. We'll discuss what's the implications are on the latest developments and what they mean for the region and the global South with Iranian South African political analyst. Stay tuned.
The Morning Switch Weekend. with the Shy Guy.
I Show Speed, often called Speed, who is a popular American YouTuber and live streamer known for his high-energy personality, loud reactions, and unpredictable humor. He visited Ethiopia, and he was shocked what he found out actually when he got to Ethiopia. He got to find out that, they don't use the Gregorian calendar. That is, we are in 2026 right now, and he got to find out they are in 2018.
2018. Nah, you trolling me. It's 2026. No. It ain't 2026. Wait, hold on. Wait, we in the past? Ronaldo is still in Real Madrid. Everything is in the past here.
Oh man, how shocked the Speed was. He went back in time.
Saturday and Sunday mornings belong to the Morning Switch. 3 to 6 a.m. Central African Time. Wake up, Africa. Peter Ndoro and Asanda Peda are here to help you rise and shine. Weekdays, 6 till 9 a.m. Central African Time. Only on Channel Africa.
Burundi is facing a mounting humanitarian pressure as tens of thousands of people flee renewed violence in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Since late last year, more than 100,000 refugees, many of them women and children, have crossed the border into the small East African country, placing strain on already limited health services and infrastructure there. Aid agencies warn that the overcrowded shelters, limited sanitation, and the risk of disease outbreaks are creating a fragile public health situation. The World Health Organization is working with the Burundian government and humanitarian partners to strengthen emergency health services and prevent outbreaks among displaced communities. Well, to discuss this a little bit further, we're now joined by Dr. Marie-Roseline Belazer, who's joining us on the line now. Thank you very much indeed for joining us and welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me. It's 6 a.m. for me. I am in DRC, Democratic Republic of the Congo, and I'm so happy to share that information with the public.
Thank you for waking up for us to talk about this very, very important story. Perhaps you can start by giving us a sense of what the situation is like on the ground. I mean, we're seeing and hearing that Burundi is receiving tens of thousands of people fleeing conflict in the DR Congo. What is the situation on the ground at the moment from what you're seeing?
Thank you for that question. Very important. So to give you a sense, I was in Burundi last week, so where I visited the camp together with the regional director of WHO Office for Africa. So we could see from first hand what is happening in that. As you mentioned, since late 2025, more than 100,000 refugees, and most of them are women. I think more than 50% are women and also children. They have crossed into the country. So as you also mentioned, it has been an increase of demand of health services, not only for the refugees, but also for the hosting community. You know that having more population also put a very bigger strain in the community already living that. So in our side, WHO and other UN agencies like UNICEF, UNHCR, and also other NGO like MSF, we are really supporting the government in order to come with not solution, but with helping this community in need. So far we have a lot of risk, and the challenges are very dire in that. So one of the challenges we have in the refugee camp is access to clean and safe water. That also increase the risk of illness spreading quickly, you know, in a crowded area. So we also have the risk of infectious disease like cholera and mpox, and have been also identified in that facilities. So, and other risks also that we have is women, maternal health, women that are delivering sometimes in a bad condition. So so far, what have we done in order to support those need? So we in WHO side, we implement a health clinic, and so with all the four basic components, with a pediatric consultation, maternal health, and small surgery, and vaccination also are part of it. So in a day, we can receive more than 400 patients every day, and most of them are women and children. So from January, when the clinic has been installed, until the day I visited, it was on 6th of March. So we have already conducted more than 78 deliveries for women, for pregnancy women. So other needs also is the education. You know, we have a very high number of children who are not going to school now. So it is also I think a risk when you're having those children. So far, what we also did, we put a vaccination considering all those children are 0 dose, and we vaccinated them with all the antigen that are available for that camp. So let me stop there if you have other questions.
So, I mean, you've described quite a lot there, and I think the physical risks are quite prevalent, and you've described them well. I would imagine that there are mental health issues as well, particularly for children in this kind of environment. Is that something that's being addressed?
Absolutely, absolutely. So now WHO in the emergency program, we also have a component of mental health in the emergency. And it is really well established in that facility now. We are working with a local NGO where we train a psychologist aid. They are not totally psychologists, but they receive the training in psychological support in order to give that support. So far, we have 19 that have been placed in the camp. So they have their clinic, and they are really having a high number of depression, a high number of post-traumatic stress disorder, and we are really taking that also into consideration. So other aspect also that we take into consideration is disability in emergency. We know sometimes we overlook those with special needs, and that time we make sure that those who need wheelchairs, they receive them. That who need those, what's the name, to work with, so they receive what they need. And we have some children with disabilities, and we provide also the special needs that their parents need in order to take care of them.
You talked about the fact that these overcrowded camps and limited sanitation can lead to outbreaks of diseases such as cholera and even measles. Has there been any outbreaks at all that are heightening this fear?
So, you know, even before the refugee camp has been putting in place, so Burundi was facing some emergencies like cholera, mpox. If you remember, Burundi was a very affected country with mpox after DRC in last 2024 and before. So they still have the risks. Even though the number have really decreased, but those situations still exist, and the camp is not exempt to them, you know, because in those diseases are also consequences of lack to clean water, of sanitation, and in crowded environment, it is a very, I can say, a very, this environment can facilitate the spread of all those diseases. Yes, we have registering some cases, but we have been able to control quickly because it's really, I can say, the perimeter was really done quickly, and we have been able to control those outbreaks. So now we are really working closely with other partners in order to increase access to sanitation. Even the First Lady, she's also working to support that access to water, and we are working really back to back with her and all other partners for that a challenge, to be solved soon.
All right, that's where we're going to have to leave it. Thank you so much indeed for that update, and we wish you well and strength with the important work that you're doing, particularly with these displaced people in Burundi. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much. Good day.
That was Dr. Marie-Roseline Belazer, who's Emergencies Director at the WHO Regional Office for Africa, sharing some insights on the urgent humanitarian and health response in Burundi. We're seeing people fleeing the eastern DRC. More than 100,000 have fled into Burundi, putting serious strain on Burundi's health system.
Africa is changing, and the world is paying attention. This March, Channel Africa invites you to be part of a new conversation. Africa Matters, a platform where experts, policymakers, and thought leaders come together to unpack the big issues of our time: technology, politics, economics, climate change, and the future of our people. This is where ideas meet action, where change becomes opportunity, where Africa's voice takes its rightful place on the global stage. In March 2026, Channel Africa hosts Africa Climate Change Recovery Summit. Join the dialogue. Be part of the movement. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Wake up, Africa. Peter Ndoro and Asanda Peta are here to help you rise and shine. Weekdays, 6 till 9 a.m. Central African Time. Only on Channel Africa.
Tensions in the Middle East remain high as fighting between Iran and Israel, with involvement from the United States, continues to escalate, raising fears of a wider regional war. Missile exchanges, military strikes, and growing diplomatic pressure for de-escalation have placed the region at a critical crossroads, with concerns also mounting over the humanitarian impact and the potential consequences for global security and energy markets. Amid the growing international debate, perspectives from inside Iranian society remain complex. To unpack the latest developments and what they could mean for the region and the global south, we're joined by Iranian-South African political analyst Amir Bagheri-Oromi. Amir, good morning to you, and thank you for making time to talk to us.
Yeah, good morning to you as well, and it's good to be here.
So, several voices from the Iranian diaspora have been featured in international media in recent days. From your perspective, how accurately do these voices reflect the actual views of the ordinary people inside Iran right now?
Yeah, thank you so much for the question and giving me the opportunity to come to the show. I do think that while some of the Iranian diaspora represent a certain percentage of the Iranian people, both in Iran and outside of Iran, I don't, however, think so that they are representing majority of Iranians, whether in Iran or outside Iran. Unfortunately, when you look at the kind of talking points that the members of Iranian diaspora constantly emphasize on and perpetuate, they are all very similar. It seems all very organized. They are all very pro-Western and pro-war, without really taking into account any of the nuances that come with wars of this nature. And I don't think they really take into account the struggle for sovereignty into consideration. And because of this, based on the many conversations I've had with Iranians, even in Iran, they're quite embarrassed and disappointed by the way in which some of the Iranians in diaspora are conducting themselves.
Many Iranians are known to be critical of their government, but you've argued that this does not necessarily translate into meaning that they support foreign military intervention. Can you elaborate on that, and also as far as what that means then in terms of how people inside Iran are responding?
I think the most important thing to recognize is to understand that Iran has never been politically a homogeneous country. I apologize. when you look at Iranian history for hundreds of years, you would know and you would see that there's always a political difference amongst the population. And this time around as well, it's nothing different. There are people who are very critical of the existing government. There are many people who are critical of the regime for many decades, and they have, showcased their criticism either through protest, through uprising, in some cases even through armed struggle. For example, you look at, some of the separationist Kurdish groups or Baluchi groups that exist within the borders of Iran. But what is really interesting, for example, many separationist groups in Baluchistan, in the south east of Iran, since the war started, they announced that just joining the Iranian regime to fight against U.S. and Israeli oppressive forces on the side of Iran. And this kind of shows you that even people in Iran that were critical of the regime for about 30, 40 years have decided to join the regime to make sure that at least, the well-being of Iranian people, regardless of their ethnic group, are protected within its sovereignty. And they are saying that they would much rather prefer to deal with issues in Iran with themselves within the Iranian territory. And this has been an ongoing message that many academics, political activists, even in diaspora, have been saying that if anything in Iran has to change, it would have to come from its people within its border and not necessarily through military intervention of foreign forces. What is also really important, and I have to mention here, is that historically, any time any foreign force has tried to question or threaten Iranian sovereignty, they have not succeeded. And I'm not necessarily talking about something of the contemporary history. This has existed through ancient history up until now. This is not a nation state that foreign forces are generally successful towards. So that spirit of Iranian pride, I think, exists still in Iran, and mass majority of people would rather defend their sovereignty rather than anything else.
If we move a little bit away then from within Iran and look at it from a global south perspective, including countries like South Africa, why is it important that we understand this conflict beyond the dominant narratives that we're hearing on international media coverage?
I think it's fundamentally important because you have to also take into account South Africa's historical relationships with Iran. A lot of the people in Iranian diaspora that are in support of this foreign intervention are individuals who are in support of one of the so-called opposition leaders, Reza Pahlavi, who is the son of Iranian last monarch. What is really interesting is that the monarch family during the apartheid state of South Africa was in extremely good relations with the apartheid government and supported the apartheid government with oil. And when he was overthrown, the current regime in Iran, the Islamic Republic of Iran, withdrew its diplomatic relations with the apartheid government, withdrew its oil and financial support from the apartheid government, and actually supported the ANC armed struggle against South Africa. And if as South Africans, we appreciate our freedom, we appreciate our democracy, and we are grateful for all the countries that assisted us to get here, Iran would probably be one of the countries on top of that list. And to kind of, look at the diaspora, even in South Africa, to go outside the U.S. embassy and, wave the American flag, wave the Israeli flag, show their support for violation of human rights, show their support for bombing of, children's school in different parts of Iran, and really continuously emphasize on pro-Zionist messaging, should tell the South African government what kind of Iranian diaspora, they're dealing with here. And for the South African public, they should know, this history, because it is fundamentally part of the fabric of South African democracy.
From a broader geopolitical picture, what are the potential implications for the Middle East and global power dynamics?
We have to just wait and see. I think Iran, through its strategy in this war, has shown that a lot of its attacks are based on reciprocating how it is being attacked. When its infrastructure is attacked, it hits infrastructure. When its military infrastructure is attacked, it hits in military infrastructure. When its banking system is attacked, it hits banking infrastructure. And what we have to be aware of is that I think we have to just see how US and Israel conduct themselves. And then we have to prepare ourselves for the Iranian response to that. The impact could be devastating for the international community, for the global south, both in terms of energy crisis and inflation almost on every single item, whether it is food, whether it is agricultural products, whether it is petrochemical products. It's going to hit us in every potential way. And the Iranian government has constantly said and emphasized that, they didn't start this war, but they will make sure that they are the ones to end it. And as international community, we have to just make sure that we utilize, multilateral platform and spaces to continuously encourage diplomacy to make sure that these tensions come to an end before it gets worse.
All right, let's leave it there for now. Amir, thank you so much for your valuable insights and have a great weekend.
Thank you so much for having me.
Our pleasure. Amir Bagher Romi is Iranian South African political analyst, unpacking the latest from the escalating tensions in the Middle East there for us. 7:30 Central African time. That means news headlines with Oneli Nsinsi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Asanda. South Africa's newly appointed National Director of Public Prosecutions, Andy Mothibi, has emphasized the need to strengthen the Protected Disclosure Act to ensure the safety of whistleblowers. This follows the recent killings of witnesses and whistleblowers linked to matters before the Madlanga Commission sitting in Pretoria. Eswatini has received 4 more third-country deportees from the United States. The 4 are Somalians, a Tanzanian and a Sudanese who arrived late yesterday at the Matsapa Maximum Security Correctional Center outside the capital. And the U.S. says it has hit around 6,000 targets in Iran since the conflict began. Channel Africa News, I'm Oneli Nsinsi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Let's find out what's happening in the world of sport ahead of a massive sporting weekend. A very good morning to you, Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thank you so much, Peter. A very good morning indeed from the sports desk. While Stade Milan head coach Mauro Njoya says his side remains unfazed by the underdog tag ahead of their CAF Champions League quarter-final leg, first leg tie against Mamelodi Sundowns on Friday night. Now, the Malian champions impressed during the group stages, finishing strongly to secure the advantage of hosting the decisive second leg at home, where they hope to seal a place in the semi-finals. Now, speaking through a translator at Loftus Versfeld Stadium on the eve of the match, Njoya reflected on a campaign that has already defied all expectations.
I would like to give a story because there's one journalist, the French journalist, I won't name him. So he calls us a team that will be giving point away, a small team. That's really motivates us to do better, to prove him wrong. And look at us now. We've been topping of the group, and now we're playing without pressure. We are so relaxed. We come here to get something, and we're ready for that. We did our homework.
So Stade Malien have gone through a bit of slum in their domestic league, having suffered back-to-back defeats in the lead-up to their trip to South Africa. And Joy insists that this is because opposition teams double their efforts when they play against them.
We become in our league with the team to beat. So all the teams that are coming, against us, they play defensive football and try to eat us in a counter-attack. Yes, but we're so positive. We take it very nicely because we have to take it positively, even the draw or when we lose. But we still, when we're coming back home, we're still going to be the best team in Mali, and we make sure now we don't just be a big team for Mali, but in Africa.
Further afield now, UEFA have opened disciplinary proceedings against Chelsea winger Pedro Neto after he pushed over a ball boy during the Champions League defeat by Paris Saint-Germain. The 26-year-old Portugal international shoved the youngster in the stoppage time of Wednesday's last 16 first leg at Parc des Princes, where Chelsea lost 5-2, which caused him to fall off a chair. It sparked an altercation between both sets of players. UEFA said proceedings have been instigated against Neto for unsporting behaviour in accordance with its disciplinary regulations. Chelsea will host PSG next week Tuesday in the second leg, following Newcastle's visit to Stamford Bridge on Saturday in the Premier League. On to athletics news now. Sweden's Mando Duplantis broke his own pole vault record for a 15th time on Thursday with a jump of 6.36 meters. The two-time Olympic gold champion cleared the height at the IFU Arena in Uppsala in the Mondo Classic, an indoor pole event only in Sweden that is named after him. After clearing 5.65 meters, 5.90 meters, as well as then 6.08 meters, all on his first attempts, the 26-year-old asked for the bar to be lifted 23 centimeters to a world record height and then promptly soared over. It was the second time Duplantis has broken a world record in Sweden. He cleared 6.28 meters in Stockholm in June of last year, one of 4 world record leaps in 2025. He also has increased the world record by a minimum 1 centimeter margin on all 15 occasions he has broken it. Before Duplantis' run, the world record had been held by Ranud Laveni of France, who jumped 6.16 meters in 2014. And finally, in Formula One news, Mercedes driver George Russell has accused Ferrari of blocking changes to Formula One's starting procedure ahead of this weekend's Chinese Grand Prix. Russell, who won the season-opening Australian Grand Prix race just last weekend, said the current rules leave front-row drivers at a disadvantage with low battery levels after the formation lap affecting their starts. He labelled Ferrari's stance as selfish and a little bit silly after both he and teammate Kimi Antonelli had to recover from poor gateways in Melbourne before sealing a 1-2 finish. Russell insists the issue needs addressing to ensure fairness at the front of the grid. And that concludes your sports news, at least for this hour. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, do send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11714 4459. It's just gone 7:37 a.m. Central African time. I'm back with headlines at the top of the hour. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Still to come on Rise and Shine, we check in with what happened at the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund 30th anniversary gala dinner. This was hosted in Johannesburg, South Africa last night. And this fund has worked alongside communities and partners to elevate the voices of children and ensure that their rights remain at the center of South Africa's social progress. Stay tuned.
Africa at Play with Neto and ETO Chemane.
Lelinhle, talk to us about your relationship with your father, Coach Pitso. What is this one thing that he said to you that is still stuck at the top of your head?
Coach Pitso and our mom, Moira Tlhagale, have always told us that whatever we do in life, we must do it to the best of our abilities. And, represents our family well. But the big thing is do what you love and do it with all the passion that you have. And I think we see it in both their work. I mean, my mom has done a really good job with placing Coach Pitso in different clubs around the world, and she's negotiated contracts, and she's showing that as a woman you can also do work that is seen, and you can also get respect from men in a male-dominated space. And I think my dad has also shown that you must never underestimate the Black African man.
Lelinhle Mosimane, a South African communications and digital media professional. Lelinhle is also a daughter to a great mentor when it comes to the game of football, Coach Jingles Mosimane.
Live every Saturday and Sunday from 2 to 5 p.m.
It's time now to check in with what's happening in the world of business as we say good morning to Chanduko Ligege for that update.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thank you, Asanda. Good morning. The Pretoria Specialized Commercial Crime Court in South Africa has sentenced former Steinhoff auditor Hein Odendaal to 4 years imprisonment or a $120,000 fine. Odendaal, who turned himself to the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation, the Hawks, last year, entered into a plea agreement regarding his role in the multi-billion-dollar scandal. The court found he failed to report massive fraud involving fictitious income, which led to the release of false and misleading audited financial statements. Hawks National spokesperson Katleho Mohale.
Odendaal was also sentenced to an additional 2 years imprisonment, which is wholly suspended for a period of 5 years on the following condition: that the accused is not convicted of the contravention of Section 34(1) of the Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act committed within the period of suspension, and that the accused subject himself to a 1-year correctional supervision in terms of Section 2761H of the Criminal Procedure Act.
Egypt has set maximum prices for unsubsidized bread sold in private bakeries, reviving price controls on staple food as the government seeks to limit the impact on consumers of an expected rise in inflation due to the Iran war. Inflationary pressure is growing after a spike in global oil prices due to the war. This has prompted Egypt to raise fuel prices, and analysts say the pressure will ripple through transport and production costs across the economy. Egypt relies heavily on bread as a dietary staple, making price changes politically sensitive in the country of about 120 million people. South Africa's manufacturing sector has started the year on a weaker footing, with production slipping to 0.7% year-on-year in January. The decline was due to sharp contractions in the wood, paper, publishing and printing industry, as well as the basic iron, steel and machinery division. 7 divisions recorded stronger year-on-year growth, but this was not enough to lift the industry into positive territory. In West Africa, top producer Ivory Coast is looking at reforming its cocoa marketing system by making governments set farmer prices more aligned with international prices. The move follows a sharp drop in global cocoa prices, which sparked a cocoa sales crisis in the country and resulted in a pile-up of unsold beans both inland and at the West African country's ports. After nearly tripling to record levels in 2024, world cocoa price futures have lost 3/4 of their value and are currently trading at around $3,300 per ton due to a global surplus of beans. Ivory Coast last October set the fixed price paid to cocoa farmers some way above current world price levels, meaning global traders faced steep losses on cocoa purchases in the country. U.S. President Donald Trump says stopping Iran from getting nuclear weapons is more important than controlling oil prices. He said as the world's largest producer, the U.S. made a lot of money when oil prices went up. Oil prices have risen sharply again despite the International Energy Agency saying it would release 400 million barrels of strategic reserves. 3 more civilian ships were attacked in the Gulf overnight, and the BBC's Barbara Platt-Asher is in Doha.
3 more ships were attacked, 2 of them off the southern coast of Iraq near Basra port, and 1 of them off the coast of the United Arab Emirates. 2 of them bursting into flames and having to have crew evacuated, and 1 crew member dying. And then on top of that, you had the Iraqis and Oman closing down oil terminals. So again, another avenue for exporting oil closed down, not just the blockage of the Strait of Hormuz.
In the markets, $1 in Nigeria is 1,000 naira 393, Botswana 13 pula 33, Kenya 128 shilling 447, Zambia 19 kwacha 44. BRICS countries $1 in Brazil 5 real 18, Russia 79 rubles 29, India 91 rupee 28, China 61.87, South Africa 16 rand 64 cents. $1 is 74 pence to the British pound, 86 to the euro. Commodities: gold is at $5,148, platinum at $2,148 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil $100.59 a barrel. That is all for now. For any stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or you can call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Chanduko Ligege.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. New day, new stories. Start your morning right with Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
Now, Chinese brands accounted for 17% of total vehicle sales in South Africa's automotive market in the last quarter of 2025. This is according to the TransUnion South Africa Q4 2025 Mobility Insights report, which states that the country's automotive market closed 2025 at its strongest level in more than a decade, supported by easing interest rates, improving vehicle pricing, and decisive shifts in how consumers evaluate vehicle affordability. Tutungobeni reports.
According to the latest report by the global information and insights company TransUnion, South Africa's automotive market closed 2025 at its strongest level in more than a decade. This is supported by easing interest rates, improving vehicle pricing, and a decisive shift in how consumers evaluate vehicle affordability. The TransUnion South Africa Q4 2025 Mobility Insights report indicates that while headline sales reflect a clear recovery, underlying patterns reveal a market increasingly shaped by value, sharper segmentation, and intensifying competition. Aisha Hatia, Director of Research and Consulting at TransUnion, says the report is a 3-month publication.
The Mobility Insights report is TransUnion's quarterly publication. It provides a deeper, more comprehensive view of the automotive landscape, which tracks market performance, consumer behavior, electrification trends, connected car adoption, and export activity. It was developed to meet the growing demand for actionable, data-led intelligence in a rapidly evolving mobility environment, which enables our industry players to make informed strategic decisions.
The report shows that aggressive pricing of enhanced specifications, extended warranties, and growing consumer trust have fueled intensifying competitive pressure across all segments of the market. Hatia says these high sales were last seen more than a decade ago.
The standout trend for 2025 was the volume of passenger car sales. It increased by 15.3% when compared to Q4 2024, which brought the full year total to the highest we've seen since 2014.
The report shows that electrified mobility continued to gain traction in 2025, with new energy vehicle (NEV) sales reaching approximately 16,700 units, representing 4% of new passengers vehicle sales, up from just 0.3% in 2021. Hatia says also included in the key findings of the report is that 1 in every 5 vehicles sold is a Chinese brand.
Some of the key findings out of the report is the Chinese brands now account for 17% of total sales, which means that almost 1 in every 5 vehicles currently sold is a Chinese brand. Our Q4 data shows new vehicle registrations rose 30.1% year-on-year, while the used vehicles growth was just 0.7%. The used to new ratio declined from 3.8 in 2024 to 2.9 in 2025, meaning consumers are increasingly choosing new vehicles as monthly payments become more competitive. Electrified mobility continued to gain traction in 2025, with new energy vehicles sales reaching approximately 16,700 units.
Looking ahead, she says the report is showing signs of cautious momentum rather than guaranteed growth.
Looking ahead to 2026, the report signals cautious momentum rather than guaranteed growth. So while 2025 ended with exceptional new car sales and strong affordability tailwinds, momentum may moderate in 2026 as the interest rates remain elevated and credit conditions tighten. At the same time, export headwinds and rand volatility pose risks to production and long-term stability. Overall, the outlook is positive but fragile, with competitive pressure from value brands expected to intensify.
For Channel Africa News, I am Tuto Ngobeni in Johannesburg.
The rights of children, their protection and well-being were under the spotlight at the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund's 30th anniversary gala dinner. That's what we're going to touch on in just a bit, but we need to take a short break. Remember to connect with us on our social media. At Channel Africa is our page on Facebook, and then it's at Channel Africa 1 on the other social media platforms.
Across Africa, communities rise with the promise of clean water and clean sanitation. The African Union's 2026 theme calls us to action.
It's about mobilizing real commitments, securing climate-resilient water and sanitation projects, and ensuring that water becomes a driver of sustainable development and prosperity across the continent.
A landmark moment, not only for Africa, but for the global movement for access to safe water for all.
Assuring sustainable water availability for every home, every village, every nation. This is the Africa we want.
Channel Africa, the African perspective.
New day, new stories. Start your morning right with Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
So to that story then, the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund now, the rights of children, their protection and well-being were under the spotlight at the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund 30th anniversary gala dinner. This hosted in Johannesburg, South Africa last night. CEO of the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund, Dr. Linda Ncube Nkomo, says over the past 3 decades, the fund has worked alongside communities and partners to elevate the voices of children and ensure their rights remain at the center of South Africa's social progress.
The last 30 years have really been a journey, and they've been a journey of ensuring that we don't leave children behind. And the role that the fund has played in advocating for the rights of children is one, creating platforms for children to be heard, because that's part of their rights. They have a right to be heard. They've got a right to adequate nutrition. And so we have been a part of the putting together of the National Strategy for Accelerated Action for Children. And in there, we've really focused on the issue of nutrition for children, focused on the stunting of children. So that's why in the SONA, you heard specific reference to under 5 stunting. It's because of the work that we've done as the children's sector, because we've also realized the power of working together as a sector and not wanting to be the glory boy whose voice is the only one that people know, but realizing that when we come together and put our weight behind an issue, it can get the attention and the traction that it needs. We have gotten observer status to sit on the African Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of Children. And in that structure, what we have been very intentional about doing is making sure that children are part of the conversations. So again, you have these structures where children are being discussed, but they're not in the room. And a lot of time you lose their insights because they've got a lot of insights that can make a huge difference in terms of the understanding of the issues that they're currently facing. So we are also wanting to ensure that the work that has started of Children 20 being recognized as an official engagement group in the G20 doesn't get lost. So we are talking to children organizations in the US to share our learnings, but we know that the US might be a difficult one, but also talking in the UK that is going to be hosting next year to make sure that if the US makes a decision as they can to a unilateral decision to drop CH20 in the UK, we will already have started to make inroads to ensure that the voices of children don't get lost.
As a fund, what do you think are still some of the challenges that children continue to face and battle with?
The violence against children is a huge issue. And now it's taken on an even more ominous form in the form of online violence. Because, with the physical violence, you're able to have some sort of way of identifying where the threat is, who the threat is coming from, and so on. With online, it's just, talking digitally. And the danger with that is that, these groomers of children, these pedophiles, these online abusers of children don't come as if they're adults who are trying to put children at harm. Half the time kids are talking to strangers and they think they're talking to their own age mates. Meanwhile, they're talking to somebody that, is actually a danger to them online. So that's really an area of focus that we want to be able to strengthen. And the challenge is that the digital world is growing at a much faster rate or developing at a much faster rate than policy frameworks are able to keep up with. So it's about being able to try and keep up with that. And then to work with the providers of those platforms, because they are the ones that should make sure that there are guardrails that exist within the platform, such that if a child is in danger, there should be an alert that goes onto the system to say there is a person that's having this conversation and intervention is required in there. And sadly, what we're seeing happening in the world is the responsibility being put on children, and even in some instances, some draconian rules being used to guard children. But it shouldn't be that way. The onus of keeping children safe should not be on the child. It should be on the providers of the platforms predominantly, and also on the caregivers. You need to know what's your child watching. Link your phone to their phone. Just the way, we control what's happening on our smart TVs, we know what channels they can go onto and so on. We're able to check what they've been watching. Parents are not diligent enough when it comes to children and smartphones. They'll use the smartphone to babysit the child and not realize the danger that child is in, locked away in a room on their phone. What are they watching? Who are they talking to? Are you comfortable with the content that is on that phone? So, there's a lot that becomes the challenge, that there's almost an outsourcing of responsibility to everybody except the caregiver of the child.
That was CEO of the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund, Dr. Linda Ngcubenkomo. She was speaking to Channel Africa's Nhlanhla Mahlangu at the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund 30th anniversary gala dinner that was hosted here in Johannesburg last night.
Ritmos e cultura com Jacob Tivani. Hoje vamos celebrar momento muito especial na música, em particular o universo do jazz moçambicano. Ladies and gentlemen, senhoras e senhores, temos o privilégio de receber dos maiores nomes do jazz de África, moçambicano e, por que não, o mundo lusófono, Moreira Xunguiça, para falarmos sobre o lançamento da edição especial em vinil do seu icônico álbum The Journey, The Moreira Project Volume 1.
A música é que me escolheu e não foi eu que escolhi a música. O saxofone é que me escolheu, não fui eu que escolhi o saxofone. Eu sinto-me honrado, sinto-me de alguma maneira satisfeito e, mais importante, sinto-me feliz porque usamos o álbum The Journey como um influenciador, catalisador. Eu sinto-me honrado.
Ritmos e cultura com Jacob Tivani. Todos os domingos, das 20 às 21 horas.
The sound of Africa is evolving. Experience our new mobile app. Free to download, free to connect. New day, new stories. Start your morning right with Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
So here's a fact that many of you might not know, even though most of you probably have had a cup of coffee once or twice, even more. Some people addicted to it. So here's a story for you. Coffee is one of the world's most popular drinks, as we know, and it was first discovered in Ethiopia. Yeah, according to legend, a goat herder named Kaldi noticed that his goats became more energetic after eating berries of a certain plant. Well, after that, those berries were later brewed to create coffee, and this spread from Ethiopia to the rest of the world. So you have this goat herder called Kaldi to thank for for discovering and observing that his goats were going mad after eating these berries. They had so much more energy for some reason, and that just changed the game. And now we've got people like Asanda Beda who also drink coffee.
I can imagine the smell, those aromas of the coffee. Yeah, I'm trying to cut down on it, but yeah, now you're tempting me to maybe go for a cup. So that is now the second hour that we wrap up, entering into the third then of Rise and Shine. Wake up and smell the coffee. This is Channel Africa. We'll tell you what's coming up on this hour of the show in just a bit. I'm Asanda Peta with Peter Ndoro. Here's Onele Nzinzi with our news update. It's 8 o'clock Central African time.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Sanda. South Africa's newly appointed National Director of Public Prosecutions, Andy Motibi, has emphasized the need to strengthen the Protected Disclosure Act to ensure the safety of whistleblowers. This follows the recent killings of witnesses and whistleblowers linked to matters before the Madlanga Commission that's sitting in Pretoria. The commission is investigating allegations of criminal infiltration and political interference in the criminal justice system of the country. Advocate Motibi says the Justice Department is working on legislative amendments to broaden the scope of the Act and to extend protection beyond the traditional employer-employee relationship.
As it provides at the moment, its coverage is not wide enough to cover other whistleblowers that are outside of the employer-employee environment. The Protected Disclosures Act, as you read, if you read it now, it limits the protection to those who disclose wrongdoing, but in the employer-employee relations space. So the intent is to widen up. If I recall well, the Ministry of Justice might have taken out some of the proposals for comments. If they haven't done that, they'll be doing that soon for public comments.
The Southern African Parliament's ad hoc committee will today hear the evidence of 4 witnesses who are members of the public. The committee is investigating allegations of criminal infiltration, corruption and political interference in the justice system. Abongwe Kobokana explains.
Today's 4 public submissions follow that of Kishne Chetty. Members of the committee have expressed mixed views about Chetty's evidence. They were concerned that it was about pending cases against him. Their main concern was the possibility that he might incriminate himself. DAMP Glenys Breitenbach walked out of the proceedings, saying she is deeply uncomfortable to participate. The committee has a deadline of the 31st of March this year.
Zambia's Foreign Affairs Minister Mulambo Haimbe has clarified the government's position on the delayed burial of the late President Edgar Lungu, who passed away in South Africa in June 2025. Speaking on the sidelines of the Southern African Development Community Councils of Ministers meeting in Pretoria, Haimbe explained that the impasse arises from a legal battle in South African courts. He stressed that the Zambian government respects the court processes and the family's wishes, while continuing to appeal to the family to reach a resolution, allowing the country to finally lay its late president to rest.
The position is that for us as government to remain open, we still say to the family, we are there as your government, representing you as well as the people of Zambia generally. There is an impasse currently because our late president's family decided to go to the Superior Court to appeal against the decision of the lower court, which had said that the body is to be brought to Zambia for burial. We'll respect those processes. We respect their wishes and, of course, respect the decision of a court of competent jurisdiction here in South Africa and anywhere else that we are subject to court processes.
Eswatini has received 4 more third-country deportees from the United States. The 4, 2 are Somalis, a Tanzanian and a Sudanese, who arrived late yesterday at Matsapa Maximum Security Correctional Center outside the capital, Mbabane. They joined 15 others sent to the tiny Southern African kingdom last year under U.S. deals with several African nations to accept undocumented migrants. The facility expects around 140 more deportees. Trump's administration has been sending deportees to Eswatini since last July in a deal that has earned the small Southern African country $5.1 million. And lastly, the U.S. says it's hit around 6,000 targets in Iran since the conflict began. It says these include dozens of ships, weapons factories and air defense systems. Meanwhile, Israel says it's carrying out a new wide wave of airstrikes on the Iranian capital, Tehran. The latest strikes came as Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says his country was inflicting what he called heavy blows on Iran's Revolutionary Guard. The BBC's Lucy Williamson.
He talked about the enormous achievements that were changing the balance of power in the Middle East and beyond. This is no longer the same Iran, no longer the same Middle East, and this is not the same Israel, he said. And there are some Israelis who will hear that and will hear in it their Prime Minister saying that Israel has achieved what it set out to achieve in this war, even while Iran's regime is still in place.
For any news stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us at +27 11 714 4459. Channel Africa News, I am Onele Tsinzi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
And coming up in your sports news this hour, Donald Trump says it's inappropriate for Iran to be at this year's FIFA World Cup, while Arina Sabalenka advances to the last 4 in Indian Wells. Details at 8:30.
From Africa's broadcast capital to the furthest corners of the globe, this is Rise and Shine, every weekday mornings on Channel Africa.
Good morning and welcome to the third and final hour of Channel Africa's Rise and Shine, where we invite you to stay connected to Africa and the world with Channel Africa, the international voice of the South African Broadcasting Corporation. You can listen and watch anytime. channelafrica.co.za is where you'll find us. And also on your mobile apps, just look for the SABC Plus app, and you can also listen to us via DSTV or OpenView on the audio bouquets there. We're on social media. At Channel Africa is where we are on Facebook and all the other social media platforms. Just type in at Channel Africa 1 and you'll find us there. And don't forget, Channel Africa is always first with the African story globally. I'm Peter Ndoro.
And I'm Asanda Peda. In this hour, we go to our usual feature. A daily feature has become now as we count down to the 25th of March for Channel Africa's Africa Matters Summit. And this will be happening at the Wits Business School in Johannesburg. The theme for this is climate change, financing Africa's recovery. So today's conversation will be joined by one of the panelists at the summit, who is a climate and energy specialist at WWF South Africa.
And also, because it's a Friday, it's one of our favourite features, RT Beats, where we take a look at arts and culture through the lens by Nhlanhla Mahlangu. That's all coming up in this hour. Stay with us.
Conversations are happening, and Channel Africa is at the heart of them. We tell the African story with clarity, pride, and purpose, reaching audiences that matter to your brand. Partner with us and connect your business with listeners across borders in multiple languages and markets. For partnership opportunities, sponsorship, or sales, email us at partnership@channelafrica.co.za. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Let's just do it.
Your life just got easier. Get the Channel Africa app and take us wherever you go. Catch the latest news, enjoy your favorite shows, stream the music you love, and stay connected to the continent. All in one spot, right in your pocket. Simple, quick, and always with you. The Channel Africa app. Download it now on iOS and Android. Wake up, Africa. Peter Ndoro and Asanda Peda are here to help you rise and shine. Weekdays, 6 till 9 a.m. Central African Time. Only on Channel Africa.
South Africa's Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, otherwise described as a foreign minister in other countries, Ronald Lamola, has warned that rising geopolitical tensions, economic volatility and climate-related shocks are increasing pressure on economies across southern Africa. Lamola was speaking on Thursday at a two-day ordinary summit of the Southern African Development Community, SADC's Council of Ministers, currently underway in the capital, Pretoria. The meeting has brought together regional ministers to review progress on SADC programs, assess the implementation of decisions taken at previous summits and at council meetings, and also discuss priorities aimed at strengthening regional integration and accelerating development across the bloc. Channel Africa's reporter Michael Mbewe filed this report.
South Africa, in its capacity as interim chair of the Southern African Development Community Council of Ministers, is hosting the Ordinary Summit of Ministers with a focus on advancing the theme adopted at the 45th SADC Summit held in Madagascar in August 2025, namely advancing industrialization, agricultural transformation and energy transition for a resilient SADC after taking over the chairship from Madagascar following a coup last October. In his opening remarks, South Africa's Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Ronald Lamola, in his capacity as the chairperson of the Council of SADC Ministers, warned that escalating geopolitical tensions are placing growing strain on economies across Southern Africa.
We meet at a time of growing economic and political complexity and uncertainty, both regionally and globally. The international system is marked by heightened geopolitical tensions, economic volatility, climate-induced shocks, and disruption to global supply chains. These pressures are compounded by a growing threat to territorial integrity and the sovereign equality of nations. At the same time, geopolitics and geoeconomics have become increasingly intertwined, with trade, technology, finance, food security, energy security, and climate policy all being used as instruments of strategic competition.
Lamola raised concern of ongoing instability in the region, particularly escalating conflict in the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo and the political transition in Madagascar, urging SADC member states to continue supporting efforts aimed at restoring peace, stability, and democratic governance.
We also have to take stock of progress made in regional peace and security in this meeting. We remain concerned of the escalating conflict and the displacement of communities in the Eastern DRC. SADC must remain seized with supporting all efforts to bring peace and stability in the Eastern DRC. We remain seized with supporting the process in Madagascar to restore civilian and democratic rule. And this regard, this Council must take stock on the progress being made to ensure that Madagascar holds this national dialogue to bring stability and to bring democratic elections within the 24 months commitment by the interim leadership of Madagascar.
Furthermore, Lamola urged SADC ministers to ensure regional decisions translate into real economic benefits and opportunities for citizens across Southern Africa.
The work before us over the next 2 days is therefore of real importance. Its success will not be measured simply by the number of decisions we adopt, but by the progress we make in transforming our economies and improving the well-being of all. Ultimately, our deliberations must translate into practical outcomes that expand opportunities, strengthen resilience, and deliver meaningful benefits to the citizens of our region. A young entrepreneur in Lusaka, a farmer in Lilongwe, the miner in Lubumbashi, a trader in Gaborone, a small business player or big business in Johannesburg are not primary concerns with adoptions of framework or strategies, including the workers. They are concerned with the execution and how it changed the economic of scales and their lives. And that is what we are called to, including to regional stability.
His counterpart, Zambia's Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Mulambo Haimbe, speaking to Channel Africa, welcomed the meeting, saying the Southern African Development Community must strengthen regional cooperation and pursue agriculture and industrialization to build greater self-reliance amid global uncertainty.
So we're happy to be here. The setting is perfect for this particular council meeting in the sense that from the theme, you can see already where the mindset is of the SADC grouping. The mindset is in relation to agriculture, in relation to industrialization, in relation really to making ourselves more self-sustaining as a region. And that speaks to your question about the ever-changing geopolitics. At a time like this, when there's a lot of uncertainty in the world order as we've known it, it's important for regional groupings, for countries in regional groupings to band together, like-minded, in the interests of their self-preservation, if I may use that expression. So it's very significant in that regard.
Meanwhile, SADC's General Secretary Elias Mpedi Makhosi called on member states to strengthen unity, innovation, and the Regional Development Fund to advance developmental goals while prioritizing peace and security across the region to realize its vision.
Honourable Ministers, the world is shifting. The current geopolitical storm is a stark reminder that we must be deliberate and shift gears. We must be closer and more united, and we must be innovative. The RDF is our vehicle for transformation. Without it, we stand still, and with it, we can boldly move forward together. Consolidating peace and security remains a top priority. Without stability, industrialization falters, investment declines, and our visions of 2050 slips beyond the reach. The region continues to engage actively in addressing the situation in both the Democratic Republic of Congo and Madagascar.
In conclusion, Makhosi also commended South Africa for hosting the G20 summit, describing it as a historic moment that demonstrated Africa's readiness to lead global discussions and strengthen multilateral cooperation. The summit ends on Friday. Michael Mbewe, Channel Africa News, Johannesburg.
Still to come, we talk about Africa Matters, the summit that Channel Africa is hosting this month on the 25th in collaboration with the Wits Business School.
Africa is changing, and the world is paying attention. This March, Channel Africa invites you to be part of a new conversation, Africa Matters, a platform where experts, policymakers, and thought leaders come together to unpack the big issues of our time: technology, politics, economics, climate change, and the future of our people. This is where ideas meet action, where change becomes opportunity, where Africa's voice takes its rightful place on the global stage. In March 2026, Channel Africa hosts Africa Climate Change Recovery Summit. Join the dialogue. Be part of the movement. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
From Cape to Cairo, Dakar to Dar es Salaam. Rise and shine with Peter Ndoro and Asanda Peda on Channel Africa.
Africa is said to be the most vulnerable continent to climate change, experiencing disproportionate impacts despite contributing the least to global greenhouse gas emissions. Warming faster than the global average, the continent faces severe droughts, floods, extreme heat, and rising sea levels. that threaten food security, health, and economic stability. Countries around the world are now setting ambitious net zero targets, while major oil companies are diversifying their strategies to transform from traditional fossil fuel producers into broader energy companies. It is for this reason that Channel Africa will host the inaugural Africa Matters Summit on 25 March 2026 at Wits Business School in Johannesburg, under the theme Climate Change, Financing Africa's Recovery. So today we're joined by one of the panelists at the summit, Kabonina Masango, who is a climate and energy specialist at WWF South Africa. Kabonina, good morning to you and thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Sister Sana, and thank you so much for having me.
It's our pleasure. Let's start off by understanding what it is you do then. Unpack for us what a climate and energy specialist is and the work that you do at WWF South Africa.
Okay, so to firstly introduce myself, so my name is Kabonina Masango, and I'm a climate and energy specialist at the Worldwide Fund South Africa. So I have over 9 years of experience in sustainable energy systems, climate mitigation, and urban development across the African continent. So essentially what a climate and energy specialist does is that I work in policy formation, policy development, and policy advocacy work. I also I led and launched the Illustrative People's Energy Plan project that oversees the development of a comprehensive, technical, and socio-economic analytical report that is designed to inform and guide South Africa's forthcoming National Integrated Energy Plan, which bridges evidence-based research, policy development, and stakeholder engagement to advance a just and inclusive energy transition.
Right, and then your work at WWF South Africa and how you got involved there?
So my work at WWF, so as I just iterated that I'm leading the Illustrative People's Energy Plan reports that we launched last year at the National Business Initiative Climate Summit. I also am currently working on the transitional minerals and sustainable mining advocacy work currently. And then I'm also part of the energy governance of South Africa group, and also part of the Climate Justice Coalition as well. I work across. I work with various stakeholders such as labor unions. I work with civil society. I work with our government personnel and also in the private sector.
So what is it that African nations can do to align to the international standards and when it comes to climate commitments with the urgent need to expand energy access for the people that are currently without it?
So I think it's not only in the macro level where we have to look towards African countries or our African governments, but I think it's an inclusive and a holistic and a whole society approach that we need to take heed of. So I believe that to comply to our international climate change standards, we need to work together as society to change the ways in which we do things. So within the local levels, we need to change the way we are consuming and the way we are the waste as well. So if we would like to avoid, for instance, floods within our roads and within our cities, then we need to stop littering in essence. And then we need to stop littering, and we need to take heed of how we also use our electricity as well. And then also in the macro level with national governments, they need to really take heed of the over-reliance of fossil fuels. We need to move away from coal and find more alternative and cleaner solutions to do that. And also we need to also work together within governments and private sector to implement climate related projects, both in climate adaptation and climate mitigation. So thank you.
Yeah, on that then, fossil fuels, why do you believe it is urgent that we come with turnaround strategies that are going to give new energy projects and national energy policies that are in line to shifting away from these fossil fuels?
So with fossil fuels, I believe that fossil fuels, it is scientifically based, is that fossil fuels have been the core reason of why we have been seeing accelerating global warming that has increased climate change variabilities within our cities and within our nations. So we need to also move away from fossil fuels because there's a lot of opportunities as well with regards to economic growth and job and skills development as well within the green economy that will be fueled by clean and alternative renewable energy sources.
Does Africa have the political will, as you see it, to incentivize renewable energy adoption? You've been in the space for 9 years now.
Yes. So Africa. So when we're speaking as a continent, what I usually try and avoid is that because Africa is very nuanced and there's different types of states within Africa. So it depends also on the type of national interest and the type of institutions that various organizations or different states have. So pertaining to political will, I see that African states mostly do try and protect their national interests, and also they do try and look towards, because sometimes we don't have the political might within the international community to also push for the different types of negotiations that we need to create a just transition. So some states may have the political will to try and change the ways in which they approach energy and the energy market systems, but they may not have the political might that they would rather have had in the international community. But in terms of South Africa, I do see that we do have the political will, just a bit of reluctance of moving away from coal. So now there's this new term that is being said by government, that clean coal. But I don't believe that there's I don't believe that there is any clean coal. But because now they're trying to divert us away from achieving 100% renewable energy by 2050. They keep saying clean coal. So I think it depends. The political will depends on the type of state, and it depends on the political might that the state has to bring about those changes within the international community.
Right. And you touch on the importance of collaborations and partnerships when it comes to these kinds of projects. So with all the different voices that come together, especially for our continent of Africa on renewable energy, how do we ensure that the voices of the actual communities that are directly impacted are also heard in these energy projects, and that those local communities are best served?
Okay. So I think the pleasures of working within civil society is that we always have very strong campaigners, and we always have very strong community engagement people that are always fighting on behalf of people. So we have very good campaigners or coalitions such as the CJC, and we have very good campaigners within South Africa and in Africa who are always fighting on behalf of the local communities. And also with our WWF's Illustrated People's Energy Plan, we have a very strong focus on localization and localization of the renewable energy value chain. And we also have a very strong focus on increasing the free basic electricity as well, to ensure that South Africa, to ensure that at least people get more energy poverty, and also to push this narrative of localization of renewable energy value chain, to ensure that people no one is left behind within the just transition process, and everyone achieves 100% electrification and by 2050. Thank you.
Right. And as you say, talking of nobody being left behind, there are opportunities here as well. What do you see them as being, particularly when it comes to creating new industries in Africa, the cleaner energy and renewables, the kind of job creation they can drive?
Okay, so looking at the context of our just energy transition process that we're currently undergoing in South Africa, so I know that Mpumalanga is the province that we look towards a lot to decarbonize and transform, because most of the power stations are situated there. So we can use some of the, like for instance, an example is that the Komati power station has been decommissioned. So in that process, we can use that to upscale to create a green economy base there. So in essence, we can add a solar panel. We can add a solar panel farm. We can add a solar PV farm there within those areas. We can also create green energy manufacturing hubs there, where they can create where they can produce electrical battery, solar battery systems, and other implements that are needed within the just transition process.
All right, Kabonina, you're going to be a panelist at the Africa Matters Summit, and the topic you'll be discussing there is solutions and actionable recommendations. So what do you think in terms of how these kinds of gatherings and conversations can pave a way forward in finding long-lasting solutions to Africa's energy problems? And we're not just exchanging numbers and making new friends, but we're making a difference.
Yes. So I always believe that when we are in these types of engagements, there's an opportunity for all of us to come in and bring in new ideas. And also it's a privilege where we're in the same room and some people have influence, some people have access to information, some people have access to finance, some people have access to changing the systems to bring about a better just transition process. So I feel that the summit would be a very good place for us to sit at and to speak. And also I am hoping that after the summit, we will come together and bring about actionable steps and implement those steps within South Africa and Africa abroad. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being part of this movement, Kabonina. We appreciate your time again here on Rise and Shine. And you have a great weekend.
Thank you. Guys, same to you.
Thanks. That's Kabonina Masango, a climate and energy specialist at WWF South Africa, one of the panelists at the Africa Matters Summit that's going to be taking place at the Wits Business School. One of the discussions there will be looking at solutions and actionable recommendations. That's what she'll be a part of. So it's 8:30 now, Central African time. Let's say good morning to Onele Nzinzi. She has our news headlines.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Asanda. South Africa's newly appointed National Director of Public Prosecutions, Andy Mothibi, has emphasized the need to strengthen the Protection Disclosure Act to ensure the safety of whistleblowers in the country. This follows the recent killings of witnesses and whistleblowers linked to matters before the Madlanga Commission sitting in Pretoria. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa says there is no temptation to permanently deploy soldiers to work with the police. Currently, over 500 soldiers are deployed in the Gauteng province to assist the police to fight gangs-related crimes and illegal mining. And the US says it's hit around 6,000 targets in Iran since the conflict began. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Nzinzi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Time to catch you up with the world of sports. And with the news is Musibudi Makura.
Sports.
on Channel Africa.
The African Perspective.
Thank you so much, Peter. A very good morning indeed from the sports desk. Well, US President Donald Trump said on Thursday that the Iran soccer team was welcome to participate at the 2026 FIFA World Cup, but he believed it was not appropriate that they will be there for their own life and safety. Iran has qualified for the 48-team tournament that is held in the USA, Canada, as well as Mexico from the 11th of June and is scheduled to play 2 group matches in Los Angeles as well as one in Seattle. Now, the Iranian Football Association issued a statement on Thursday and on social media saying the United States should not be allowed to host the World Cup if it could not guarantee the safety of players. Iran's sports minister said on Wednesday that it was not possible for the Iranian players to participate in this year's tournament after the USA launched airstrikes alongside Israel against Tehran, killing the Islamic Republic's supreme leader. An official withdrawal by Iran from soccer's global showpiece would be the first in the modern era and leave FIFA with the urgent task of finding a replacement. Back home now, Stade Milan coach Mauro Njoya says his side remains unfazed by the underdog tag ahead of the CAF Champions League quarter-final first leg against South African side Mamelodi Sundowns tonight. The Malian champions impressed during the group stages, finishing strongly to secure the advantage of hosting the decisive second leg at home, where they will hope to seal a place in the semi-finals. Now speaking through a translator at Loftus Versfeld Stadium on the eve of the match, Njoya reflected on the campaign that has already defied all expectations.
I would like to give a story because there's one journalist, the French journalist, I won't name him. So he calls us a team that will be giving point away, a small team. That's really motivates us to do better, to prove him wrong. And look at us now. We've been topping of the group, and now we're playing without pressure. We are so relaxed. We come here to get something, and we're ready for that. We did our homework.
Now, Stade Milan have gone through a bit of a slump in their domestic league, having suffered back-to-back defeats in the lead-up to the trip to South Africa. Njoya insists that this is because opposition teams double their efforts against them.
We become in our league with the team to beat. So all the teams that are coming, against us, they play defensive football and try to eat us in a counter-attack. Yes, but we're so positive. We take it very nicely because we have to take it positively, even the draw or when we lose. But we still, when we're coming back home, we're still going to be the best team in Mali. And we make sure now we don't just be a big team for Mali, but in Africa.
On further field now, UEFA have opened disciplinary proceedings against Chelsea winger Pedro Neto after he pushed over a ball boy during the Champions League defeat by Paris Saint-Germain. The 26-year-old Portugal international shoved the youngster in stoppage time on Wednesday's last 16 first leg tie in the capital city of France, Paris, where Chelsea lost 5-2, which caused him to fall off the chair. It sparked an altercation between both sets of players. UEFA said proceedings have been instigated against Neto for unsporting behaviour in accordance with its disciplinary regulations. Chelsea will host PSG next week Tuesday in the second leg, following Newcastle's visit to Stamford Bridge on Saturday in the Premier League. And finally, Mercedes driver George Russell has accused Ferrari of blocking changes to Formula One starting procedure ahead of this weekend's Chinese Grand Prix. Russell, who won the season-opening Australian Grand Prix, said the current rules leave front-row drivers at the disadvantage with low battery levels after the formation lap affecting their starts. He also labelled Ferrari's stance as selfish and a little bit silly after both he and teammate Kimi Antonelli had to recover from a poor gateways in Melbourne just before sealing a 1-2 finish. Russell insists the issue needs addressing to ensure fairness at the front of the grid. It is 8:36 a.m. Central African Time. It concludes your sports news on Africa Rise and Shine. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, remember to send us an email. That's to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Alternatively, call us on +27 11714 4459. I'm back with more sports news with the On The Move team in the next hour. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Coming up on Rise and Shine, it is Friday, so we catch you up with what's happened in the world of arts and cultures and lifestyle, entertainment and all those nice things. And Ntlanhla Mahlangu will bring that to us a little later. Stay tuned.
Es-tu préoccupé par quelque chose? Es-tu passionné par les questions qui comptent? As-tu une voix qui mérite d'être entendue? Eh bien, nous avons la plateforme parfaite pour toi. Téléphone-nous ou fais-nous un WhatsApp au +27 66 408 87 42 et nous te rappellerons. Sois dans la conversation.
Salut Channel Africa, ici Beno le Diamant Rouge et Binal Sport depuis le Cameroun, le pays des lions. Voilà.
Sois dans la conversation. Il ne s'agit pas seulement de parler, mais c'est ta chance d'exprimer ton point de vue, de partager tes opinions et de t'engager avec une communauté qui valorise ton avis. Suivez-nous sur les réseaux sociaux, visitez notre site www.channelafrica.co.za et préparez-vous à partager vos points de vue sur Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
It's time for our business news. Here is Chanduko Ligege.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thank you, Asanda. Good morning. Senegalese Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko has declared a BP gas contract unfair, revoked 71 mining licenses and froze the accounts of a major Indorama subsidiary until it pays the state roughly $438 million. The move marks the most concrete steps yet from a government that came into power in 2024, promising to audit and potentially renegotiate the West African nation's resource deals and rebuild the country's finances. The government review found that a gas contract for the Greater Torture Mayim project operated by BP was one-sided and unfair. BP has not issued any comment. In other news, the effects of conflict in the Middle East on oil prices are continuing to affect global industries. South Africa's low-cost airline FlySafair says that it has introduced a temporary fuel surcharge on ticket prices, citing a sharp increase in global jet fuel costs. The airline says the measure is necessary to manage rising operating expenses while continuing to offer affordable travel. Kirby Gordon is the Chief Marketing Officer at FlySafair.
The situation in the Middle East is well known to all of us, and we're all starting to feel the pressure in terms of the rising price of oil. Unfortunately, the jet fuel industry has been particularly hard hit in this instance, and we're seeing the increase in fuel at some of the coastal regions in excess of about 70%, which is obviously something very difficult for us to absorb, especially given that the impact of fuel as a direct operating cost on our operating costs is about half of what it takes to put a flight on from one destination to another. So unfortunately, we've had to take a decision to try and recover that to a certain extent.
The Pretoria Specialized Commercial Crime Court in South Africa has sentenced former Steenhoff auditor Hein Odendaal to 4 years imprisonment or a $120,000 fine. Odendaal, who turned himself to the Hawks last year, entered into a plea agreement regarding his role in the multi-billion rand scandal. The court found he failed to report massive fraud involving fictitious income, which led to the release of false and misleading audited financial statements. Hawks National spokesperson Katleho Mohale.
Odendaal was also sentenced to an additional 2 years imprisonment, which is wholly suspended for a period of 5 years on the following condition: that the accused is not convicted of the contravention of Section 34(1) of the Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act committed within the period of suspension, and that the accused subject himself to a 1-year correctional supervision in terms of Section 2761H of the Criminal Procedure Act.
Egypt has set maximum prices for unsubsidized bread sold in private bakeries, reviving price controls on staple food as the government seeks to limit the impact on consumers of an unexpected rise in inflation due to the Iran war. Inflationary pressure is growing after a spike in global oil prices due to the war. This has prompted Egypt to raise fuel prices, and analysts say the pressure will ripple through transport and production costs across the economy. Egypt relies heavily on bread as a dietary staple, making price changes politically sensitive in the country of about 120 million people. U.S. President Donald Trump says stopping Iran from getting nuclear weapons is more important than controlling oil prices. He says as the world's largest producer, the U.S. made a lot of money when oil prices went up. Oil prices have risen sharply again despite the International Energy Agency saying it would release 400 million barrels of strategic reserves. 3 more civilian ships were attacked in the Gulf overnight. The BBC's Barbara Platt-Asher is in Doha.
3 more ships were attacked, 2 of them off the southern coast of Iraq near Basra port, and 1 of them off the coast of the United Arab Emirates. 2 of them bursting into flames and having to have crew evacuated, and 1 crew member dying. And then on top of that, you had the Iraqis and Oman closing down oil terminals. So again, another avenue for exporting oil closed down, not just the blockage of the Strait of Hormuz.
$1 in Nigeria is 1,000 naira 393. In Botswana, 13 pula 33. Kenya 128 shilling 447. Zambia 19 kwacha 44. BRICS countries $1 in Brazil, 5 real 18. In Russia 79 rubles 29. India 91 rupee 28. China 61.87. South Africa 16 rand 64 cents. $1 is 74 pence to the British pound and 86 to the euro. Commodities: gold is at $5,148. Platinum at $2,148 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil at $100.59 a barrel. For any stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or you can call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Chanduko Ligege.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. New day, new stories. Start your morning right with Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
The Chief Executive Officer of the MTN Group, Ralph Mupita, says that African governments and businesses must work together to turn the continent's rapidly growing population into a strong economic advantage. Mupita made the remarks at the launch of a new book by renowned business leader Phuthuma Nhleko titled The Invisible People, How a Quarter of Humanity Can Thrive in Africa by 2050. This was held at the Wits Business School in Johannesburg, South Africa. Channel Africa's economics reporter Innocent Samosa has more.
Africa's population is projected to double to about 2.5 billion people by 2050, meaning that 1 in every 4 people on Earth will be African. While some view this rapid growth as a challenge, Chief Executive Officer of MTN Group, Ralph Mupita, see it as one of the continent's greatest opportunity.
I'm pretty excited about the future for the continent. I think you might expect me to say that as a person who believes in the continent and leading a Pan-African business. If you look at the next 20 to 30 years, Africa's going to have a youth bulge. By 2040, a significant majority of the working population will be Africans, if you look at the direction of global demographics. So this youth bulge, we need to turn it into a youth dividend, so that dividend works for Africa as our mother continent and broader for the rest of the world. And I certainly believe that one of the levers that we should be thinking about is How do you use technology to turn that youth bulge into a dividend?
I asked him which sectors he believes have the greatest potential to absorb Africa's growing workforce and support long-term economic prosperity.
I think we have, bestowed on the continent these critical minerals. So the world, over the next 20, 30 years is going to be driven by AI and different versions of AI, general artificial intelligence and artificial general intelligence and so forth, agentic AI. But that is all driven from the foundation of silicon and the critical minerals that are, plentiful on our continent.
CEO of the Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital, Dr. Nguli Boykuzo, says the continent should invest more in technology.
So definitely in terms of telecommunications, technology, digitization, that's where the world is going to. If you look at our field specifically in healthcare, AI is taking us by storm. A lot of the work that we do is now automated. We use robots to perform some of the surgeries. Of course, a lot of it still has to be directed by a human. But there's a lot of robotics that are involved. And so it's important that this population, we invest more in technology and how do we advance the continent in that field.
For Channel Africa News, I'm Innocent Samos in Johannesburg, South Africa.
On Channel Africa is after Rise and Shine is on the move, and that brought to you by the team of Benjamin Mushatama and Palisa Tau. So let's find out what to expect on this Friday's edition of the show as we say good morning to you, Benj.
Hey, beautiful people. The morning, people.
Hey, happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Your shows are slamming on Friday.
Always slamming, man. I was told to keep it short, so let me try because I love chatting with you guys, but I'll keep it brief, right?
Okay.
Today we're going to be looking at African music and its growth in a global audience, right? We know brands like Amapiano, genres like Afrobeat, the Afrobeat of now, of course, me and you, Peter, know a different type of Afrobeat, has taken over the world, right? But today we're going to ask the question, how much of that actually reaches the artist, that global accolade? We unpack how music royalties work across Africa, why artists are struggling to access the money they are owed, and why emerging artists need to know how to protect their work and ensure they are properly compensated.
The business of music.
The business of music, international music, that is, because they are like performing on that mega level, and are they playing with the same local rules? Not at all.
That's fascinating. Okay, that's on the move in 11 minutes time.
Got something to say? Are you passionate about issues that matter? Do you have a voice that deserves to be heard? Well, we've got the perfect platform for you. Call in or drop us a WhatsApp on +27 63 406 9126, and we will call you back so you could have your say and be part of the conversation.
30 years of age. I just turned 30 on the 15th of November. So that's who I am,
It's not just talk. It's your chance to air your views, share your opinion, engage with the community that values your perspective. Follow us on our social media. Visit our website at www.channelafrica.co.za and get ready to share your views on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
New day, new stories. Start your morning right with Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
On Rise and Shine on every Friday, we bring you a segment of our show we call the Arty Beats. This is where we catch up with what's happened in the world of entertainment, of the arts, and sometimes music. Let's hear what we have in store from Nhlanhla Mahlangu for this week.
Welcome to this week's African RT Beats exclusive to Channel Africa, the African Perspective. I am Nhlanhla Mahlangu. In this week's segment, South Africa's creative talent celebrated at the Mahindra Fusion Fest, and nominees for the Comics Choice Comedy Awards announced. Mahindra's Fusion Fest returned for a second year last weekend, drawing more than 7,000 people to the Sunbed Arena in Pretoria, South Africa for a mix of music, fashion and art. The program unfolded through 4 themed chapters that blended music, fashion and visual art into one fluid narrative. Zoe Modiga led the opening act alongside Mafiki Zolo, Kurt Darren and Claire Johnson in a sweeping reflection of South Africa's musical journey since 1994. Modiga wowed audiences with her 5 outfits designed by the award-winning Afrofuturistic Pan-African fashion brand Imprint, founded by Mzuki Simbani.
I think the most beautiful thing, like I've dressed a lot of artists, like we do a lot of shows that include, because they always include fashion, but with this one, I love the intentionality of it. It literally felt like a fashion show. The fact that Zoe came out and we had that beautiful moment where I had to sort of like reveal her to the people, walking out and changing to different. It was a musical show, but you got the fusion element of it. Like fashion was intentionally included in the presentation.
Take us through how you put together the outfits.
I think the first one was sort of like the most exciting and the easiest. So the brief was, because Zoe was born in 1994. So she represents sort of like the rebirth of South Africa. And she walks us through the evolution of the sound, the music. She represents the now, but she got to be with Mafiki Zolo, Ket Darren. Like, she walks through different generations of music. So the first one was the rebirth, like I said. And the print was a butterfly. She sings... Wadala umdali, wadala bantu, wadala the nature. The print itself, the dress itself is inspired by God's creation, is inspired by nature. So that one was the most fun, the most beautiful one, and the most exciting to sort of like interpret it from theme to the actual garment. When she got to be on stage with different like Mango Groove, for me, I instantly thought when I was growing up, my older sisters with the black uniform, dancing along, doing all these shows. So I literally took that schoolgirl sort of look and I reimagined it for Imprint and for the Zoe style. So it was the same concept with all the looks that we got to do for all the different sort of like revisits of the different genres and eras of music.
And how has the brand grown over the years?
Yeah, it's grown a lot. I remember, I'm completely self-taught. I studied my accounting and became a fashion designer. So for me, it's always like, I don't know how to put it into words. It's a feeling thing. Just seeing my work coming from me working from home to now a designer that gets to showcase in stages like this. And just the fact that last year alone, opened the year with New York Fashion Week. I went to Shanghai Fashion Week. I went to Paris Fashion Week. Just the fact that I went to 3 major fashion weeks in the world in 1 year. And I always look at myself as just that self-taught fashion designer working from home. So it's always validating, but it's also a humbling feeling because I know that the work that I do, I always say it's not me. I carry the people that existed for me to exist and to do the work that I do.
The nominees for the 13th Savannah Comics Choice Comedy Awards have been announced, marking a major moment in South Africa's comedy calendar as the industry recognizes the performers and creators who've shaped the past year of local humor. The country's comedy industry gathered for the annual nominee announcement on Wednesday in Sandton, Johannesburg, at an event filled with anticipation as comedians waited to hear whether their work over the past year had earned them a coveted spot on the nominees list. Winners will be revealed at South Africa's comedy biggest night on Saturday, the 2nd of May 2026, where the country's top comedians will gather for an evening celebrating the very best in business. Categories include Headliner of the Year, Comedian of the Year Award, and Newcomer Award, amongst others. Jabulani Mlambo, known as Jiga the Thirdborn, is a nominee in the Newcomer category.
I'm still processing fiction. I'm still trying to figure out. I don't know, but I'm super excited.
What do you think actually got you to where we are today? What is it about your comedy that made you stand out?
I'm different actually. Like I'm a quiet test comedian. Like in the stage, I'm not the energetic comedian. So, and most of the time when I perform, I always perform with what a reality. So, and I think the performance is about outstanding when it comes to when you come. Like most of my peers, they were performing in English. So, I get in Nevenek. So, mother tongues, and I did good.
So how long have you been doing comedy?
Since 2020. From 2020, I think 6 years or 5 years now. Yeah, 6 years.
So what doors do you see opening up for you now that you've officially entered the space? And the fact that you are nominated.
I feel like I played my part, so the rest only God knows. So, but I hope good things comes, and it's about time for me. Like, I'm funny because back then you can do my gigs and stuff and say I want what you funny, but you can tell no, I'm not that good now. But since sing recognize you, so it's time to me show that I'm funny and I deserve the industry in recognize as much as Namsing is recognized.
One of Africa's flagship Afro House and Afrotech music gathering, founded by global DJ and producer Shimza Kunye, took place in Linksfield in Johannesburg last Saturday, positioning the city as the home of Kunye and the global epicenter of African electronic dance culture. Baba Gaunadi, a spokesperson at the Gauteng Tourism Authority, says the event reinforces Johannesburg's status as the creative heartbeat of Africa.
Hosting of these types of events in a consistent manner helps in catalyzing our visitor economy trajectory in the province, in particular our domestic tourism numbers, which continues to lag behind. We remain Africa's leading and South Africa's leading international arrival destinations with billions of rands generated from this growth. We want to reuse that model to emphasize growth in our domestic numbers, catalyze the domestic tourism sector, and the collaboration with quality global events organizers, and the building of a music tourism route that leverages on this consistency will go a long way in improving our performance and creating job opportunities, sustainable livelihood for the businesses and small businesses that are operating and attached to the sectors.
That's it from this week's African RT Beats. Until next Friday for Channel Africa, I am Nhlanhla Mahlangu in Johannesburg.
Across Africa, communities rise with the promise of clean water and clean sanitation. The African Union's 2026 theme calls us to action.
It's about mobilizing real commitments, securing climate-resilient water and sanitation projects, and ensuring that water becomes a driver of sustainable development and prosperity across the continent.
A landmark moment, not only for Africa, but for the global movement for access to safe water for all.
Assuring sustainable water availability for every home, every village, every nation. This is the Africa we want.
Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Start your day right with Channel Africa Breakfast.
That smells delicious.
Live, 5 days a week.
And that's how we come to the end of this week's edition of Rise and Shine. Join us again Monday morning. Until then, have a great weekend. Coming up, we leave you in the hands of Benjamin and Palesa with On the Move.
Stay tuned to Channel Africa. Stream us on our new and updated website, channelafrica.co.za.
Hey, we're moving on from Rise and Shine. Thank you to Peter. Thank you to Asanda for getting us going this morning. But it is 900 hours Central African time. We're going to keep the morning African stories going on this Friday with myself, Benjamin Moshatama, and Palesa Tau. It's time for On the Move. But before we get into things, let's get the latest news.
SABC News. The African perspective.
Thank you, Benjamin. Looking at your top stories, the Eastern DRC conflict places pressure on Burundi, and around 6,000 targets hit in Iran since the conflict began. Your latest news. Greetings to our listeners. The World Health Organization says Burundi is facing a growing humanitarian crisis as thousands of people flee violence in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. More than 100,000 refugees, mostly women and children, have crossed into Burundi since late 2025, putting immense pressure on health services.